order to provide language access, this meeting will have simultaneous bidirectional interpretation into English and Spanish. If you're bilingual, you don't have to click anything. But if you're not bilingual and you're using your laptop, in a few seconds, you'll see an icon shaped like a globe at the bottom of your screen. Click on Language Interpretation and then click English. From your iPad or a phone, then locate the three-dot menu in one of the corners of your device. Click on Language Interpretation and then select English. When you speak, do so at a moderate pace because the interpreters are going to be simultaneously interpreting everything you say. A efecto de proporcionar acceso lingüístico, esta reunión contará con interpretación simultánea bidireccional al español. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada, pero si usted no es bilingüe y está en su computadora, en unos segundos verá un icono en forma de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Haga clic en Interpretación de idiomas y después seleccione Español o Spanish. Si está en su iPad o su teléfono, busque el menú de 3 puntos o que dice More en una de las esquinas de la pantalla, haga clic en Interpretación y después seleccione Español o Spanish y después Aceptar, Finalizar o Done. Cuando hable, hágalo en español y las intérpretes estarán simultáneamente interpretando todo lo que usted diga. Gracias. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. If you wish to view closed captions of this meeting, please view the meeting on the SMUHSD board meeting YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube channel can be found on our website. You may view the captions in English as we live stream our meeting tonight, and you may view the captions in a variety of other languages if you choose to watch after this meeting has ended. Viewers may request additional accommodations by calling 650-558-2201. For our deaf and hard of hearing community, we have a team from HANA Interpreting Services, and they will be interpreting our meeting this evening. We would like to ask everyone to speak at a clear and reasonable pace for our interpreters. Thank you. Okay, we will go on to the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I will now report out on actions taken in closed session. The board received, considered, and denied an appeal with regard to a complaint filed by an employee with a vote of 5-0. Upon the motion of Trustee Chavez, seconded by Trustee Jacobson, the board moved to approve special education settlement case 1 with a vote 4-1. The votes were as follows: Trustee Griffin, yes. Trustee Chavez, yes. Trustee Jacobson, yes. Trustee Land, no. And I voted yes. Upon the motion of Trustee Chavez, seconded by Trustee Jacobson, the board moved to unanimously approve special education settlement case 2 with a vote of 5-0. Upon the motion of Trustee Chavez, seconded by Trustee Jacobson, the board moved to approve special education settlement case 4 with a vote of 4-1. The votes were as follows: Trustee Griffin, yes. Trustee Chavez, yes. Trustee Jacobson, yes. Trustee Land, yes. And I voted no. At the May 23rd board meeting, upon the motion of Trustee Griffin, seconded by Trustee Jacobson, the board approved the denial of 8 interdistrict transfers, 2425-7, 2425-63, 2425-115, 24-25-85, 2425-19, sorry, I read those differently, 2425-97, 2425-9, 2425-61, and I approved 2 interdistrict transfers, 2425-44 and 2425-13 with a vote of 4-0. The votes, 4-1. Thank you. 4-1. The votes were as follows: Trustee Griffin, yes. Trustee Chavez, no. Trustee Jacobson, yes. Trustee Land, yes. And I voted yes. Going on to adopting the agenda. The Board of Trustees may either adopt the agenda as presented or make a change to the agenda through a motion, second, and majority vote. The Brown Act prohibits any additions to the agenda without a 72-hour public notice for regularly scheduled board meetings. Are there any questions or comments from the Board of Trustees or the superintendent with respect to the agenda? Okay, since there are no responses, any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. And from Zoom? None? Okay. No. All right. I would like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Great. We have a motion by Trustee Griffin, second by Trustee Chavez. All in favor?
Aye.
And there are no oppositions and no abstentions. The motion carries. Thank you. Going on to public comments. If you are joining us in person and wish to make a comment about an agenda item or during the public comments section at the beginning of the agenda, please fill out a request to address the board form and submit it to the secretary. This form should be given to the secretary before the agenda item begins. If you are joining us virtually, use the raise hand feature on Zoom to be recognized. When invited to do so, your camera must be on before you are called upon to make a public comment. We will call on you to begin your comment once we have promoted you into the meeting. If your camera is not operational, please email your comments to Board of Trustees at SMUHSD.org. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment, depending upon the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. I will call on in-person comment requests first.
There are none.
Thank you. Are there any on Zoom?
There are none.
Thank you. Okay, we will go on to governing board comments. Do any of the Board of Trustees have any comments before we move on with our agenda? Yes?
I will try to be crisp about this. I did attend the graduation of African-American students here in San Mateo County. That was the Wednesday before, actually it was a ceremony awarding Kente stoles. And I actually got to put the stoles on the graduates, and the majority of them were from our district. And actually they had an African dance performed by a graduate from Aragon who had actually graduated from college. And it was a really good performance. And then I also did San Mateo's graduation along with the superintendent. And we sat out there in the sun and really enjoyed it. It's quite a energetic graduation ceremony. So I really had a time of my life, and I relived my youth because I took the superintendent around and told him where everything used to be. And, you know, that included the home ec building, which nobody even knew we had one, the pit, which has been, you know, is only in my memory, and a couple of other buildings. So, but it's a great day, highlight for me. So.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Trustee Chavez.
Yeah, graduations are so exciting. So that's basically what I want to share about. I know at the last board meeting, I had already mentioned about the Capuchino Latino graduation that I was honored to be part of. And that was, I brought my sash. I forget, Trustee Andrade Zuniga, the sash that I brought last time. There's a particular name for it. The Latino.
The sarape. It's made out of a sarape.
Yeah, right. And that was on May 22nd. That was really remarkable. And then a few of us attended the Bridge graduation dinner, and that was really special. Superintendent Booker was there, Trustee Jacobson, Trustee Andrade Zuniga, and we had just a great time of celebrating the students with their families. And I felt like that's always really a special time. This is the second year in a row that I attended that, and that was really special. Trustee Jacobson and I know we also went to the Peace Pantry celebration dinner, and that was celebrating all the volunteers at Hillsdale that participate year round in the Peace Pantry. And we had a great dinner outdoors, and it was great weather. And I wanted to mention that a lot of volunteers were recognized with certificates, including Trustee Jacobson, because a lot of families and volunteers volunteer every Friday, and they actually bring food. Part of it's grown right there at the school site, herbs and I don't know, you can speak up to what else is grown there because you know more about that than I do, but they also have food from is it the first harvest, second harvest food bank? They drop off food. So it's really great that our community actually delivers food to those in need that can't travel. And then the Aragon graduation, that was really amazing. That was on May 30th. And I had the opportunity to speak at that graduation. And I was asked if I wanted to hand out the graduation certificates to each and every student. And I want to apologize to all those families because I did not know I was going to be in 440 individual photos with the students. And my face was really red because it was hotter than normal. So I was actually in 440 photos. So I want to apologize up front. 444 graduates. That was a long graduation, but it was amazing. And then the very next day was the Cappuccino graduation, and I was not in 444 photos, so I liked that. That was pretty, but it was amazing because I was honored to actually speak at that graduation as well. And it was all graduations are special. This graduation had my daughter as one of the graduates. And that was very unique that I was able to hand my daughter this. The Principal Gomez says, "Here, you give it to your daughter." So because you call the name, and so whether my daughter really appreciated that or not, I'm not sure. But I gave her, the diploma. And how often is it that a parent can give their own child the high school diploma? So that was very special to me, once in a lifetime opportunity. And so I hope some people took some pictures of that. And then we had the staff had professional learning this week, 2 days at Skyline. Beautiful room. If those of you who haven't been there, the Verlon room at Skyline College is amazing. It overlooks the Pacifica Ocean right there. And a lot of times it's fogged in. So today, it's not fogged in today, and it was not fogged in Tuesday and Wednesday when they had the staff at the staff site, the staff professional learning there. And I was able to attend the morning session on Tuesday. I know that Trustee Jacobson was there, so I'll let you speak to that as well. So that's my, just to recap, this is one of my favorite times of the year. There's several favorite times of the year that I have, but the graduations, seeing the students graduate, it's really exciting because it takes 4 years or more, but basically in school for how long, like 12, 12th graders going, we're always lifelong learners, but so much effort. And I just want to lift up all the staff because at every graduation, a lot of staff members helping, parent volunteers, but I want to lift up the staff. We have a lot of amazing staff members that are involved, whether they're behind the scenes or right there on the stage helping the students and everything behind the scenes. So thank you to all the staff members involved with all the graduations. Thank you.
Great. Trustee Land?
I'm short. I'll make mine really brief. Yeah, I have a nice suntan thanks to being at BHS's graduation. It was really nice. I do want to say that I really enjoyed the Dr. Fong being the new principal. What it looks like, I'd been at BHS's before. I think she did a great job. We were a good team. Loved handing out the diplomas to all the students. I did enjoy it. I think I did a pretty good job. My speech was about AI and talked about just things that we had talked about at the one of the board meetings that we were at, and really talked about kind of the balance that really needs to happen, and joked around that I'm a procrastinator and would love to use ChatGPT a lot just to get out of work, but jokingly with the and I think the students got a kick out of it. So anyway, it was really nice. I'll leave it brief. That's the big thing that I did. It's crazy time. I love this time of year too, but I also am overwhelmed and working, and it's the 1,000 days of May and then June, and it's like, oh, I just need to get to the finish line. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you. Trustee Jacobson?
Okay. I will just briefly echo a couple things that Trustee Chavez and I were both at. The bridge dinner and celebration for the bridge graduates was wonderful. I got to meet a lot of the students and families and staff, and I got to hold one of the students' babies, which was so fun. And the Peace Pantry volunteer appreciation was wonderful. And something that I learned there that I think is really cool is Mr. Boyce talked about how a lot of times, or maybe it was Brett Stevenson, I'm not sure, I can't remember which one, but when he's talking to students who, I don't know what the correct word is, but got in trouble and need to meet with the dean or whatever, he'll take them out to the Peace Pantry garden and have them work in the garden while they talk. And it's just healing and restorative to even just dig your hands in the earth in that situation, and also building those skills that it's a form of capital that they can then take back to their peers of just knowing how to garden. So I thought that was cool. The graduations I attended and spoke at were Hillsdale, which, like Trustee Chavez, I got to be at my own daughter's graduation, and that was just wonderful, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It was a wonderful celebration, and also Mills High School. Both of them, I'm just so grateful that we could have traditional in-person ceremonies again. And one of the highlights of the Mills graduation was Jeremy and Justin Garcia, who were twins that competed on The Voice.
So good.
They sang, and it was just wonderful. I'm a big fan, and I got to shake their hands. And so I'm like fangirling over here. So then, yes, I attended both days of the professional learning workshop, Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, on the new instructional framework. I learned a lot, and one of the things that I thought was really nice about the workshop is it was done mostly by our own staff, which was great, and they used a lot of the teaching methods and practices for us to actually experience and try out. There was a lot of movement. There was a lot of discussion among, pairs and small groups. There was a lot of time for personal reflection. There was student choice. I really enjoyed meeting a lot of the staff and teachers, and just feeling very grateful and impressed with our staff. And so I'm grateful that I could attend that. That's all.
Thank you. I have some comments. I want to start with the land acknowledgement that the students from Cappuccino wrote a couple of years ago. Our community acknowledges that all of our campuses lie on the ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone. The Ramaytush are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula, whose land was stolen from them and whose native language was lost because of Spanish colonization. As settlers on the stolen land of the peninsula, we should be, alongside the Ramaytush, remembering and honoring their ancestors and relatives. We thank the first people, the Ramaytush Ohlone, for taking care of the land we use now for education and activities. Our responsibility of caring for the earth is unique and personal to each of us, but should be rooted in allyship with the Ramaytush Ohlone, so we can work together to protect and preserve the land for future generations. When reading that land acknowledgement, I think about a lot of the construction that's been happening in our school district, and I think about a lot of the folks that were here before we were. There are still artifacts that sometimes are dug up and things like that. So I really hope that we are being mindful of how we just recognize people that were here before we were. So I want to say happy Pride Month. Yay. We had the raising of the flag recently, and today they rose the flag in Half Moon Bay, and it just made me think about different communities that have not been able to do that, and how important it is in terms of representation. So I'm really proud that our district does everything they can to, well, we do everything we can to acknowledge different communities. I also want to say congratulations to all the graduates. But most of all, everybody that has their hands in helping people, helping all of our wonderful kids graduate. It's not easy, but it's definitely a village, I can't think of what I'm going to say. It's a village effort to be able to get our students to that point. So congratulations to all the students and their families and all of the supporters. I was able to attend the Bridge and Peninsula graduations, which was really nice. I always and also the Bridge dinner. It's really special because just knowing like from lived experience with my own family of folks that have come from Guatemala coming to this country to get their education, it has been something that is really special and really important, but sometimes coming here is not easy. And so remembering the struggles of all of the students that are here and what it definitely takes not only getting here, but in their everyday lives, everything they have to experience each and every day with situations that are not always in the quote unquote traditional path is just remarkable. So keeping that in mind. And I want to say thank you to all of the staff as well that gets the students to this point. Again, it's a community effort, so thank you. There's a student that graduated from Peninsula in 2020, and they now have received their AA from one of the community colleges and are now given the opportunity to go to 3 different very prestigious universities. So it's not always the path that you think you're going to take, right? It's the actual path that you are on that's important. And so I think that in this district, we definitely prepare our students for greatness. And so regardless of what path we're on, we can definitely get there. So thank you for that example, because sometimes we think that it's a failure, you know, not going straight to a 4-year university, but it's not the case. So thank you. I also wanted to comment on the PD Day. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I have heard through the grapevine some really great comments about it. So I want to congratulate our staff for creating great opportunities for the rest of our staff and the commitment that we have in this district for progress. I also want to always want to recognize our staff that helps us with these meetings. So our IT folks and the folks that keep this building clean and organized and ready to go for us. Thank you. Lastly, I wanted to talk about voting. We have a very important election coming up, not only federally, but within our local elections. I serve on the North Peninsula chapter of the ACLU, and we are working on some voter registration and voter outreach for our students. So I really hope that we can encourage our young people to do their civic duty and vote along with our adults in our district. So please, it's a very, very important election, especially with some of the things that have been transpiring lately with some of our rights that are being rolled back. It's very concerning. So please encourage people to vote. And I think those are my only comments. Let me get to the rest of my agenda here. Oh, there's one last thing I just wanted to mention. Just keeping in our hearts all of our young people all over the world that are suffering right now with a lot of violence and a lot of suppression of their futures. So please just be mindful of our youth around the world. Okay, we will go on to recognition. We will start with our Juneteenth proclamation. Superintendent Booker.
Thank you very much. This evening, San Mateo Union High School District
is recognizing June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth through a drafted proclamation, which I'll read tonight. Whereas after the Union Army captured New Orleans in 1862, slave owners in Confederate states migrated to Texas with more than 150,000 enslaved Black persons. For 3 years, even after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, enslaved Black Americans in Texas remained in brutal bondage, immorally and illegally deprived of their freedom and basic dignity. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, over 2 years after President Lincoln declared all enslaved persons free, Union Army troops marched to Galveston, Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation and free the last enslaved Black Americans in Texas. And whereas those who were freed from bondage celebrated their long overdue emancipation on June 19th, today our nation commemorates Juneteenth, a chance to celebrate human freedom, reflect on the grievous and ongoing legacy of slavery, and rededicate ourselves to rooting out the systemic racism that continues to plague our society as we strive to deliver the full promise of America to every American. And whereas the post-emancipation period known as Reconstruction from 1865 to 1877 marked an era of great hope, uncertainty, and struggle for the nation as a whole. Formerly enslaved people immediately sought to reunite families, establish schools, run for political office, push radical legislation, and sue slaveholders for compensation. And whereas the joyous commemorations that began in Texas spread around the nation, with cities and communities in California joining in celebration of this milestone in the ongoing American journey toward freedom for all. And whereas since 2003, the state of California has celebrated Juneteenth as a day to honor and reflect on the significant contributions of Black Americans to our nation. And whereas Opal Lee, the 94-year-old activist known as the grandmother of Juneteenth, pushed for years for June 19 to become a national holiday, which included walking 1,400 miles from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C., at 90 years old in 2016 to bring awareness of America's other Independence Day. And whereas President Joe Biden signed a bill in 2021 making Juneteenth a federal holiday. And whereas we are often reminded that the poisonous ideology of racism has not yet been defeated, Juneteenth is a day to reflect on both bondage and freedom, a day of both pain and purpose. It is in equal measure a remembrance of both the long, hard night of slavery and subjugation, as well as the celebration of the promise of a brighter morning to come. And whereas we recognize that we as a district must continue to make additional progress on the ideals reflected in our equity mission to, quote, continually disrupt and eliminate institutional biases and barriers to ensure that all students have the skills and knowledge to thrive physically, emotionally, and academically, unquote. And whereas on Juneteenth, we remember our extraordinary capacity to heal, to hope, and to emerge from our worst moments as a stronger, freer, and more just nation. It is also a day to celebrate the power and resilience of Black Americans who have endured generations of oppression and the ongoing journey toward equal justice, equal dignity, equal rights, and equal opportunity in America. And whereas we urge members of our community to reflect on the ongoing cause of freedom for Black Americans, as we honor Juneteenth, let us all renew our commitment to use our power to stamp out racism in our communities and institutions and help secure freedom for all.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board in respect to the proclamation? Yes, Trustee Griffin.
Okay, I have a quick comment. And, everybody loves a holiday, a day off from work. I'd like to see more reflection. And I know the front part was all the celebration and all the good times, and we were freed. But in fact, I don't know that any of us have been freed, but I'd like to think that there's more reflection on the issues and the challenges that the nation and the world face in terms of racism. And I'd like to, we have not made the progress that I think many of us think we should have made during, since 1865 or whenever the Civil War actually ended. And, we're still suing for compensation. And that just really shows how difficult that issue is to get agreement on, because that's a tough issue. I'm glad we're having the acknowledgement. I'm glad to make a motion to adopt a proclamation, but words just aren't cutting it. It's difficult in our society. So anyway, I don't mean to be the downer. So
thank you, Trustee Griffin. I echo what you're saying. I always say, like, during the proclamations, they're great, right? But they are just words. And so where's the action? And we haven't gotten to that point. This is also why it's so important to have ethnic studies, to have an accurate, representation of our U.S. history, because we need to be accurate with the information and honest about what's happening. Purposeful ignorance and denial does nothing for the progress of a community, of a society. And so it's really important that we acknowledge those things. We still have book banning. We still have voter suppression. We still have, undermining of our educational institutions. It's really, really disturbing. And so I agree. I echo what you're saying. Until we really think about those things, we aren't really free. So thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, Trustee Jacobson.
I'll just say that I agree with you. I think it is important that we be honest about our history and also acknowledge how far we have come. And it's important to look at, when you're looking at disparities of outcomes, there are many causes. And it's important to be honest about all of those causes. Sometimes actions by government do more harm than good. 85%, I think I just read, 85% of incarcerated individuals come from single parent households. And the average Black family was intact before the civil rights movement and the Great Society policies. And there was great damage done to the family structure.
Can you clarify that? What do you mean? I'm confused. Can you clarify what you mean about the Black families being intact?
I'm saying that mothers and fathers and marriages were intact before policies of that were designed to help poor people get welfare. But what happened was those policies encouraged the breakdown of marriages, and that harmed children.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was and this is not, this is our public comment, and we should share our ideas. I just want to, it's not a debate or anything to get too deep. African families came here as slaves. Those families started getting broken up at that point. And, it didn't just happen, and it's not, let's hope we keep this from the politics. It was not just an administration or a recent action.
Yeah.
It happened when we hit the shores.
Right.
I mean, and it's not,
Before that.
and I don't want to, I'm not, I'm getting a little emotional, and it's, you're making a good comment, but it happened a long time ago. And it continued to happen. I mean, and we could debate and really take the focus away from why we're here, which is to focus on the education of the students we have. So forgive me for my emotion. I'm sorry.
I mean, don't apologize. That's your perspective. Go ahead.
I just want to say I'm glad that we have this proclamation. I'm glad that we have this holiday. I'm glad that we're celebrating it, and I'm glad that we're bringing this forward. I think what I really appreciate and what I'm hearing is a discussion.
Yeah.
We don't agree, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. But I'm glad we're bringing the facts forward, and we're talking about it, and we're debating it, and it's out there. And that's what education is. And I'm glad that this is part of the board. And I want to thank all of you for contributing to in helping us grow.
Right. No, that's good. But we just have to be very careful with accurate information. So I just want to be clear. It's not a judgment. I'm just saying that you have to be very clear. Go ahead.
Thank you. Last year for the Juneteenth recognition and celebration, I joined a couple of cities for their festivities at the local parks. One was San Bruno, the city of San Bruno. One was the city of Millbrae. So I just want to encourage everybody to get involved and look at your local communities, celebrate, go attend, talk to people. I mean, the one I attended in San Bruno last year had a lot of books on the history of what happened and why we're celebrating Juneteenth. And I think it's really important. And so I just want to say that I had a great time at both celebrations last year, and I plan to attend the celebrations as well at my local community. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I guess we can move on with our.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yes.
I try to make the motion during my comments. I'll make the motion now.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by trustee Griffin, second by trustee Land. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We're moving on to the, are there any items that need to be pulled? Okay, doesn't seem like it. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to pass?
Motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by trustee Griffin and a second by trustee Chavez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, there's no oppositions and no abstentions. Thank you. Motion passes. Report of the superintendent. Go ahead.
Thank you. So a couple of things quickly. One, I want to echo everyone's comments about graduation. Just beautiful, lovely, all very unique and distinct from one another. Obviously, I wasn't able to attend each one because the times conflict, the dates conflict and all of that. But from what I've heard, it's one of the strengths of this district that, we talked about this in the new logo design, that we hold up the fact that each of our schools have a unique personality, a unique culture and community in the way they do things. Not one high school is similar to the next in the way that they even hold graduation. So sitting next to Trustee Griffin at San Mateo, we were led out by the drum corps, which was, I don't know, I got chills. It was very, I think I said that while we were walking out. It was very cool. Mills, sitting next to Trustee Jacobson at Mills, one of the first things I noticed, I leaned over and I told Principal Wisniewski, no adults on the stage. The students ran the whole thing. It was incredible. I'm like, where are the adults? And then I'm thinking to myself, yeah, these are high school. They can run it. Why aren't they run? And they ran a beautiful ceremony without a hitch. So I just thought that was great. I also went to Peninsula Bridge over at Cappuccino. Fantastic graduation. So much energy in the room. It was so much fun. I loved when the little girl ran by with the balloons. I mean, it just remember that little girl just and then they were kind of chasing after her and she was up on stage running across with the balloons. I think that was fantastic.
I couldn't even catch her.
I know, you couldn't catch her. I want to back up about the bridge dinner, and I went for a little bit, but then had to bolt out. Trustee Land and I went to the San Bruno City Council and petitioned the council for some work with Crestmore sale. And I want to thank Trustee Land for his words there and time. I really appreciate that. It meant a lot. Moving on, humanizing pedagogy PD. Trustee Jacobson was there. Trustee Chavez was there. We hosted 2 full days at Skyline College for many, many certificated educators. Again, the theme was humanizing pedagogy, and the purpose was to bring educators together to learn about and anchor all of this work for our instructional framework. I really want to thank Sabby, Hopkins, Marlo Bagsick, Brian Simmons, Julia Kemke, the entire instructional team and professional development team. I mean, that was top-notch program. Not just the content, but how it was run, how it kept moving, the time for personal reflection, the collaboration time, all of that, every detail. The colored folders and, what groups you were in and just the maps and just the food, all that. So big thanks. I know that is a huge endeavor. That's not like 2 days before you figure it out and you throw it together. I mean, this was really, really well thought out. Our professional development or professional learning in this district, and I've been a part of a number of districts. This, again, when I talk about this district being the show, this is another example. I mean, for those who've been in this district and maybe only this district, you don't have anything with which to compare. I have never seen a district put on professional learning like this district does. It is really great. So big thanks. And then lastly, personal to me, today is the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings along the Normandy coast during World War II. I want to acknowledge that this event ultimately led to the liberation of Europe and the defeat of Nazi Germany and the end of World War II. And I've been on this big kick of researching my dad and my grandfather and their involvement in World War II. I put a long post on my personal Facebook page about my dad and some of the research that I'm doing. But it's those that were involved in that conflict, that war, and other wars. It's just I get to sit here today in my luxury and privilege because of their service. So I'm really grateful. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to report from the District Teachers Association.
I don't believe we have a report this evening.
Oh, okay, thank you. Report of the CSEA Chapter 519 representative. Hello, we have not seen you in a while.
You have that very wonderful Garrett Wolfskill here. I was like, what am I going to do? I can't follow that. I'm not eloquent as he is to sit and nod at everybody like he does. I get a little bit ruffled sometimes. But actually, I came with a lot of positive, and I really enjoyed the proclamation. Okay, I'm not going there. I want to say congratulations to all the students and everyone who lifted them and helped them reach the goal of everyone graduating. And I hope that is really happening, because on my level, I don't see what's going on at those other places, but I know they're all working hard, and I appreciate their effort. I appreciate the teachers and all the staff that makes it happen for them, and whatever I can do to help them improve how they assist the students and help each other, the school district, makes it all better and easier for all of us. I hope they have a great summer. I too was very starstruck when I was watching the Voice, and the brothers were on there, because they showed a bit of the school, and they showed like the red lockers. I went, that looks like Mills. I thought, yeah, sure, right. How could that possibly be? And then they were Mill students. That was amazing. And they did very well. And you know what else was super special? It was Mills that you said that ran the graduation. In their program, they did not include the names of the SPOEs and maintenance and operation. Well, not me, the SPOEs at their school site. They named them one by one there at the ceremony. Julian did it. The president, the 2024 president, Julian did a great job. And everyone was felt very heartfelt that he took the time and energy to make sure that everyone was honored. That got honorable mention. And that really means a lot to us, because they do notice it's like, okay, all the other schools have the SPOEs and other maintenance folks listed, but not that school. But I appreciate that. And they do too. So thank you for all of that. I'm going to, yeah, you know what? It's really nice. These guys did not have a 2020 graduation from 8th grade. So this was their big first time doing it. So maybe that's a reason for Mills to get out and do it for themselves. So I'm glad they could do it and make it happen. They elevate their goals, they meet their expectations, manage their expectations, so they're not upset if they don't meet all the goals, because sometimes 50% of something wonderful is better than none at all. So we're going to keep being positive. We're going to work forward into 2024. We haven't done all of our negotiations yet because we're going to wait for the teachers to come to a compromise. So our meeting that we have scheduled for, I think it's July 16th, may get postponed until after the teachers meet, which is fine because half of our crew are SDOs, school day only employees. So they won't be able to attend anyway. So for the next year, I want to apply lessons learned from this year, listen more. I'm going to work real hard to talk less and spread the effort and help people rise to the occasion. Just having Garrett do this for me is wonderful. At first, I would give him a dozen eggs. Please, Garrett, do it for me, please. And then he's like, I like doing this. And I was like, okay, great. So he was off today. And it's like, let me do it for you. And I did. So thank you very much for a wonderful year. We'll get to this again in the fall. Well, we're not going anywhere. We're 12-month people.
Thank you for your report. Okay, report of the San Mateo Adult School Teachers Association.
We have Lynette Garcia online.
Go ahead, Ms. Garcia.
Sorry, let me unmute myself. Thank you very much. I want to take a moment to thank the board, President Lahia Zuniga, Vice President Robert Griffin, Cherry Chavez, Greg Land, and Jennifer Jacobson, and Superintendent Booker. And for all those in attendance today, thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is Lynette Garcia, and I am one of the CFT Union delegates. What I'd like to do today is just share a little bit about our month of May, updates for June, and then some actual union business at the very end. Well, it's all union business, but the month of May was very busy for us. We acknowledged Mental Health Month, and it was very, very active in terms of awareness. We had several activities going on throughout the month. We had Mental Health Tabling Fair, where students had the opportunity to speak to various representatives. We had Mental Health Poster Contest, which I had a great picture to share with you, and I ran out of time, so I wasn't able to share it, and I will share it with Superintendent Booker so he can share it with the board. Community events for info tables. We had several community events on the 5th and the 6th of May to share with our morning and evening and afternoon students so that they could collect information for mental health, as well as organizations that offer services. Spirit Week, to be seen in green. We were all encouraged to wear green, and if we didn't have green on, we gave everybody these lovely bright green bows. We had a mental health dance-off on the 20th and the 21st during our break times. That was fun. Great way to break tension, relax the body. It was very cool. I did both morning and an evening one. We did a balloon art demo, one of our students. It was really funny. She likes to make these, they're like swords, as well as dogs and so forth, but it was a lot of fun. And we also had a poster contest, which I have a really, really great poster for you guys. Again, I'll send that. We also had mental health workshops for the staff as well as our students. What came out of this, which I thought was really cool, was that several students had shared their experience with mental health issues and they were able to reach out for support. Well, once we brought it to the table and it gave them permission to be and really acknowledge that they were struggling in some instances. And so I thought that was very, very cool. And now they have resources, to further that along. Our hope is that next year it will be an even better, bigger production for the month of May with more participation from our wonderful school community. Let's see. For the month of June, the SMUHSD CFT Teachers Union, in support of team building with our classified counterparts, we successfully hosted a teachers union barbecue for all of the AE staff and administration in the form of a potluck. The union provided the main dish and the members were to bring side dishes. Oh my gosh, you guys should have been there. The potluck was to die for. We had pork, chicken, and pork and barbecue chicken with vegan side proteins. The side dishes, so many of them were handmade and homemade and handmade. It was great, as well as a variety of non-alcoholic drinks. Now I ask you, is there nothing like connecting and reconnecting with fellow team members over a fabulous meal? Meals are what bring people together in all walks of life, and it was very cool. And it was yesterday. All right, and then activities to come. We will have our San Mateo Adult and Career Education annual volunteer appreciation event organized by Marina Kratsova. I'm sure I just mashed up her name. She is our current EL specialist. Wednesday, June the 12th, we will have a volunteer gathering and refreshment in the evening from 5:45 to 6:45. Certificates will be awarded at the flagpole at 6:45. Thursday, June 13th, certificates awarding at the flagpole at 11:30 a.m. So that's our AM awards. Volunteers gathering and refreshments from 11:45 to 12:45. An update on our ASC graduation schedule is June the 27th in the Venus Saturn room from 5 to 7. I believe invitations have been sent. So if you've not received them, please triple check your emails because they have gone out. And if you have not received one and you're on the board, please let me know and I'd be happy to make sure that one is sent. For a union specific business, we are upcoming activities. We are in the midst of putting together our team for contract negotiations. A member survey was recently distributed to gather input for the upcoming negotiations, and the negotiation team is, for the most part, assembled, and we'll be reviewing the survey data in the upcoming weeks. We do have union officer elections upcoming. Ballots have been drafted and emailed, and we will have an update for you as soon as the polling begins. I'd like to close down this evening with something from Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to see change in the world. Again, thank you very much. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we will go on to, excuse me, special reports and appearances. Spotlight on student learning. Go ahead, Superintendent Booker.
Thank you. So this evening, I'm really pleased to welcome April Torres and her whole wellness team to give us an overview of our wellness programs. Our health and wellness programs. This is a program that I would say in every school district up and down the state and across the nation that has really grown exponentially to meet the needs of our students, educators, and families. And here specifically in San Mateo, it's a real hallmark of our district. And so I want to welcome you to the podium. And yeah, you're presenting, remember? Yeah. Bring the team. It's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Super excited to be here tonight and super excited that I don't have to do the entire presentation alone. When I was writing the report, I think you all have in front of you, it gives me a lot of time to reflect. And I'm looking at numbers and I'm thinking about the team And we got to do some really fun things this week. We made terrariums with some succulents for our end of the year get together. Tonight we broke bread before we came here. It was really fun. And it just gives me this time to really reflect on what we're doing and why we're doing it and who I have the privilege to do it with. So I'm very excited to have everybody here tonight. Let me make sure I can do this. Okay. So we're going to talk about our highlights. We're going to showcase our intersectionality with all of our partners. It really showcases that we do not do this work alone. I do not do this work alone. Nobody here does this work alone. And speaking of reflection, it made me think of my own two students, my little cherubs that have graduated from the district, that have had their own struggles and journeys. Lihia knows some of those struggles. And I went back and read some of the emails that my daughter's teachers sent during a really difficult time when she was in the hospital. And it just made me remember that we're all doing this together. It's not just mental health. It's not just school counselors. It's teachers. It's our coaches. It's our family engagement coordinators, our administrators. So, and then of course I looked at some of my sons and then, so with that, I'm, oh, Diego. So I want to introduce everybody. And before I do, Dr. Holly Wade said something the other day in one of her presentations, and it really resonated. And she said, all of our students are general education students first. All of our sites support every single one of our students, regardless if they're special education, multilingual learners, and other therapeutic programs. So with that, I hope that you can keep that in mind. Our theme tonight, and I think Randall will like this, is our intersectionality with all of our different departments. So with that, I want to just do quick introductions. We have Christina Cabrera, our lead mental health therapist at Burlingame High School. Adriana Gomez is our TEC therapist at Burlingame. Chelsea Chang, one of our social workers. Dago Espinoza, another one of our social workers. And then our two-pay team here, Jessamy Cadigan and Amelia Nash. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Christina.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It really is a pleasure to be here today. I'm a Bearcat, graduated in 2000, and now I'm a Panther. And so it's really exciting to be back home because that's what the district represents for me. So I have a lot that I am going to read to you because April has highlighted all of the wonderful work we are doing across the district. And I want to make sure that credit is given where credit is due. So please forgive me if I'm looking down because there's a lot of points I want to make sure that I hit. So when we really look at the holistic approach, which is how we integrate mental health and education, those two things don't naturally meet. It's ocean and river, and we've tried to find a way to really make sure that we're supporting our students. And one of the most basic ways that we do that is by providing individual counseling to students. And so it's oftentimes a safe space for students to connect with a trusted adult or get to know a trusted adult when they're having a difficult time. And oftentimes they don't think we're doing therapy with them because we have comfy couches, we have snacks, we have fidgets, I have, tons of plants. And so they just come in, they hang out, but we're doing a lot of work and supporting them with their stressors, not only related to schools, but in terms of family, life, and just the social atmosphere that they're navigating. We have a number of peer support groups that are run across the district, and I want to highlight a couple of them. One of them is, B Street Boxing is working with our Peninsula students, and our students have the opportunity to participate in weekly boxing sessions led by their wellness counselor. We want to recognize owner Eddie Croft and fitness instructor Freddie from B Street Boxing for supporting this initiative, and by opening up a channel for our students, a healthy outlet outlet where they can not only go in and connect as a community, but they're also getting, this service for free. They're getting boxing gloves, and they've been invited to continue to access the gym during summer. And that means a lot to our students who may have a hard time accessing these supports and services outside of school. We also have Dungeons and Dragons, which is a group that was started by Seth Wright at Hillsdale High School. And it's been his pet project, which he has fostered and has grown to now have over 40 students that run that group and invite others to join every year. I had the privilege this year of being one of 6 SMUHSD educators who attended a Latino fellowship, a 9-month program. And I have learned that there's still so much work to be done for our Latinos. And I have really connected with also my roots as a Latina here in the Bay Area. And through the work, I also helped create a Latino Boys Affinity group that was co-facilitated by our Dean, Nicole Carter, one of our campus safety specialists, Richard Gonzalez, and we met with students and played games, and we led a circle, and we had an opportunity to build community. And that's something that we're hoping to continue next year with our students. We also want to highlight that oftentimes we mentor our students and advocate. We are fierce advocates for our students. We advocate for their well-being, we advocate for their needs, and we really work to connect our students. And some of our students that may need more support are our multilingual learners. We now have 4 dedicated therapists and 2 multilingual social workers who work to really meet their students where they are. And they work so hard and so tirelessly because our students, oftentimes there's many gaps, not only in education, but also in access to resources. So kudos to all the work that they do. I also want to highlight that we do a lot of work with different departments across our site. I love to be in everyone's business at my school because I feel like that's what helps me understand the bigger picture of what our student is experiencing. I, actively attending attendance meetings. I work collaboratively with our dean. I make sure that our special ed department, we're constantly working together. And so it's really important that we work with our site collaborators, but also with our families. And our family engagement coordinators are just so instrumental, oftentimes helping bridge the connection, offering translation services for our families. And they are, crucial in really helping support our students. I also want to highlight that students accessing our support has just exponentially increased every single year. Highlights are that our multilingual learners, their use of services rose by 13% this school year. And some of the schools that are supporting our students are, our Bridge program, Cappuccino, Hillsdale High School, and San Mateo High School. We've also seen a 35% increase of foster youth accessing our services as well. Special education students services increased by 14% and will continue to, increase throughout the years. We want to highlight that our therapeutic programs, like the one that Adriana is a part of, are so important to us because when we did not have a therapeutic program at our site, it was really hard to encourage families to connect to that service because it would take them out of their homeschool. It would take them out of their community. It would create a loss in their friend group. And so now that most of our sites have a therapeutic program, it's really helped bridge that connection to a higher level of support. Our Latino students have also increased in receiving services, and over the past four years, that's increased by 13%. Our Black and African American students have also received steadily increased services over the last 4 years by 27%. And our Newcomer Bridge program also continues to increase by use of 27% within the last 4 years. So that's just a very small snapshot of all of the work that we're doing. Our team is much larger than this. I think we're 60 deep, but it's really been a pleasure to be here to share with you guys some of the highlights of our program. And I will pass it off to our social workers.
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Chang. I am a part of the social work team. We believe that home, school, and community collaboration is the key to achieving student success. As social workers, we are an integral part of this collaboration, and we are instrumental in enhancing the district's ability to meet its academic mission, especially for students who are struggling to overcome psychosocial stressors that are negatively impacting their attendance and learning experiences at school. As such, we have designed and perfected the attendance review process, which we call SART. That is a school site level attendance meeting process, and SARB, which is a district-run attendance meeting. This process helps to identify and allows us to directly engage with students who are struggling with attendance and academic performance. These students typically come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, under-resourced families, and they present with low self-esteem. After getting to know each of these students, we offer individualized support by meeting them where they're at and bringing services to them, such as conducting home visits, meeting them out in the community. In order to support our students and help them feel more connected to their school community, we really believe that if we can enhance their sense of belonging, it's important to help them feel more connected. Our work depends heavily on collaboration or intersectionality with school administrators, wellness counselors, school counselors, attendance technicians, and family engagement coordinators. For parents and caregivers, we offer a group called Parent Connect, which is a parenting education and support group. Some of the feedback and testimonials we have received from parents include, I don't feel alone anymore. I don't get mad as much anymore. The problem is not as big as I thought. I have tools now. I praise my child more. I don't have the word for how much support I have gotten. It's very clear to me that parents need a group too. I came to this group because my kid was not going to school. Now he goes to school every day. Upon completion of the group, parents enjoy and they value the group so much that they asked for a part 2 to continue this work. So we responded and we created a new curriculum. So we just started a round of part 2 for parents who want to continue to meet with us. So yeah, we're very proud of the work and the impact that we're making across the district. And I'm gonna let Dago, my teammate here, speak a little bit more on the specifics of our interventions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dago Espinosa, and I'm here to talk to you about attendance. You go to the other slide before. Attendance, crisis intervention, and collaborations with community resources. First and foremost, one of the things that I always share with families is that when we're talking about attendance, chronic absenteeism is not the problem, it's a symptom to the problem. And so when we conduct these home visits, we do assessments there to see what are the needs that the families need in order to re-engage them to come back to school. I'm happy to report that after our SART meetings, there's been a 76% in attendance for the families that participate in our SART process. And we served about 477 SARTs this year. Now, once they come to school, we might have to interact with them regarding crisis intervention, right? Because when we conduct these home visits, we uncover very difficult situations while we're conducting these visits. And when they return to school, they have higher levels of needs. And so we're there to be able to support them and give them the support they need to be able to stay in school. Also, when it comes to case management, we are that higher level of care to help support the families and the children. And we work very hard to collaborate with caregivers and to be able to have them reconnect with their student in order to be successful academically. And lastly, but not least, one of the things that we're also working on is that we are hosting a welcoming event for incoming 9th grade families, which we got the information through the Universal Screener. If you're not familiar with that, that's a questionnaire that they have when they register into our school. 2 of the questions was, have you had difficulties with attendance in the past 12 months? And so the people that said yes, we are reaching out proactively so that we can then address those concerns, and hopefully they can be at school and be part of the orientation process. And so we're really just taking the time to reconnect with those families. Thank you for your time. Next.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Oh, love it. Yay. Hi.
Thank you so much for having us. We're the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Mental Health Therapists. We are alternative to suspension. I'm Jessamy.
I'm Amelia Nash.
Yes, and we are really happy to be here to talk about the program that we really love. So one of the things we want to do today is we're gonna give you a little flavor, a taste of like how we approach the work. We'd also like to talk a little bit about our intersectionality and then some highlights from our year. So we work from a narrative therapy perspective, which means that the problem is the problem, the student's not the problem, people are not the problem. The problem is externalized. So we get the problems outside the students. One of the simplest way to externalize a problem is you just put the in front of the problem. And we talk about the story of the trouble or the problem that brought the student to the group. As soon as you kind of externalize a problem with a kid or with any person really, it's a lot easier to talk about it because the problem can be sitting right there, but it's not inside of us. And we think problems are inside of kids and they don't feel good about themselves. And when kids don't feel good about themselves, you know, sometimes they don't want to go to school and they might think, I might try a vape, you know, something that will help me feel a little bit better. So we externalize problems. We use restorative justice practice questions, and we also use stages of change, motivational interviewing, and harm reduction strategies. So those are some of the ways that we approach this work. And one of our students has said that we are a comfortable place to have uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, just to back up, what we do, the two of us, is all students who have had trouble come into their lives, is how we say it, come to us as an alternative to suspension. So they might also get suspended. We prefer that they never got suspended and only came to us. So we see all the students across the district who have gotten in trouble for fighting, cheating, getting caught with substances, anything like that. So we are very interconnected. We might be the only people who go across the whole district and see all students from everywhere. So we feel like we have a really good finger on the pulse of just students across the district. A few of the things that we started this year were a parent group, a parent guardian group for parents whose students got caught using substances on campus. So those parents were invited throughout the year to join a therapy group, basically, that I ran. I did 4 different sessions, and they loved it so much that they actually, much like with Parent Connect, asked to continue meeting with each other on a monthly basis. So the thing that they loved about it is it's really uncomfortable and there's really no one to talk to when your kid is using substances. You feel very alone and super hopeless. So they just got a lot of support from the other parents and from, you know, hearing from me about techniques that they can use at home. Because what we really realize is that school can only do so much. The therapist can only do so much, but really the parents have the biggest impact, but they didn't know what to do. So that's been super successful. Definitely will continue that next year. Another thing that we started, I think that came actually maybe out of the board, is the dehumanizing language group for students who got in trouble. I always say they did something that the school didn't like, but basically at school they said something that somebody found to be unsafe, usually. And so I started that really the last 6 weeks of school and had 2 different groups as kind of a pilot. And that went really well, and we'll definitely be continuing that next year as well. So those are a few of the things that we started. What else?
I think the other highlights that I was going to say is that we are big interrupters of the high school to prison pipeline. So we were able to support our community with avoiding 342 days of suspension this year, which is definitely the most we've ever done since we've been around.
And how many students do we see?
We saw like almost 400 students, I think like 368, just Amelia and I, and more, but I can't remember. Sorry, I got all the numbers mixed up.
I just wanted to give them a sense of
we had over 400 referrals, which is the most we've ever had. We placed, it's just we really, it's the most epic year we've ever had. And then the other things I wanted to highlight where we were able to intersect and interconnect and interdepend with Parent Connect and do TUPE parent support, substance use support, presentations in English and Spanish, keep calm and keep talking about substances with your students, because one of the things that we think is most important is that there aren't a lot of solutions, but the solution is to just keep talking and to have access to the problem. We don't want our students alone in the land, trying to figure out all the problems on their own. So if we can become trusted adults and be safe enough for them to trust us with what's going on with them, that can really be helpful and supportive. The last thing I wanted to say, I think, was that, Amelia has another one, is that we did the most work in Spanish that we've ever done. So we went to Hillsdale and San Mateo and did groups in Spanish for ATS, for substance use support, for vape awareness prevention education. We also did individual sessions in Spanish at Bridge, at Hillsdale, at San Mateo, at Cappuccino. So we really kind of learned how to work better with our interpreters to support our multi-language learners, whereas we actually go to the sites like other people were saying, like Christina was saying, we go there, we have to have 2 hours minimum with our interpreters, so we make it work. Sometimes we did all days at San Mateo in Spanish, sometimes we did all day at Hillsdale in Spanish, and that really seemed to support the students and just so much better. We used to actually have interpreters come to our groups and do both. It did not work very well. So we're really kind of sorting it out, and we were really happy with how it worked this year. So thank you.
Yeah, you remind me the other thing that we started doing this year is going to the school sites to meet with students, especially around substance use, because we ask them to come to the district office and sometimes students just can't come or they just don't come. And so we were having little pockets of students. So I went to Cappuccino and had a girls group, and also to Peninsula and had a girls group there, because the students just, needed support. And so we're doing more of that as well, like going to the site and having things for students. So, and on to Adriana.
My inner assistant really wanted to grab the remote and deal with the things myself. So I did. And also, can you tell we listen more than we speak? We have so much to say tonight. So I am going to be speaking about our mental health and wellness steering and advisory committees. We developed and implemented the steering and advisory committees in order to collaborate with diverse partners. And that included students, parents, our team, teachers, our board president, Ms. Ligia, and getting to create that safe space where we have honest discussions about what the needs are for our students and how we can best support them, and continue to ensure equitable, high quality service with continuity of care. This created a collaborative environment by building agency within our partners, enhancing our ability to address the unique needs of our students and our families for effective and sustainable outcomes. We are looking really to just support our students, meet them where they're at. And the need is so high. I mean, we all know post-pandemic, things are not the same. And we see that in our numbers. We are serving so many more students. I mean, our team has needed to grow. I remember when it started and there was just a couple, but look at the team now and it's a necessity. And we're looking to make sure that we are on our A game all the time. And these steering and advisory committees allowed us to demonstrate a commitment to inclusivity and collaboration through our committees, creating a comprehensive and culturally responsive and impactful mental health and wellness program for our community, and really in support of our students and getting them, on their journeys is a long one. Thank you. Now, this information is gathered from our senior exit surveys. We had over 1,300 students participate in our survey. And as you can see, overwhelmingly, our students are satisfied with our work. They know where they can find us. And they know that there are people there for them. They know that there are not just their teachers, not just their school counselors, not just admin or dean, but there are wellness counselors on hand to support them and not blow up their spot and not tell, their business. And it's a safe space. I mean, I think I can speak for every single person on our team. It is important to us to create a safe space where these students know that there is someone out there who cares beyond their families, sometimes more than their families. And we are so lucky and so blessed to do this work. But as we see, our students are asking for more. They want more wellness counselors and they want us to be more available, which is difficult when we're offering services to specific caseloads and then drop in and then ask to hold everything else that maybe a little bit falls into the mental health realm. The students are looking for more advertising. So let's get some posters, Laura. They want more snacks. So I guess we got to start baking, guys. And they want to know that they are cared for. And this is what our seniors had to say. I think part of our work in the steering and advisory committees is we want to know what the freshmen want to say too. I think we want to know what they are thinking, what they're expecting, what their comfort level with mental health and talking about their own anxieties and depression and their own, even if it's not an anxiety or depression, it's a life struggle and we all go through them. And we want to know how we can serve our incoming and rising students even better than we already do. And for that, looking forward, I will pass it to Ms. Torres. Yeah, please.
Except I'm gonna do a dance. I know. So looking ahead, what are our hopes, our goals, our thoughts for next year? And really it's that intersectionality to continue this work, to continue with our partners. And really we need to do that for sustainability. If we want to sustain this program, if we want to grow this program, and we want to provide equitable access to services and education. So that is what we are excited about moving forward. And lastly, because I forgot to mention this, and I think it was said, we have 35 mental health therapists and social workers. We also have an administrative assistant, Janice Fuentes, who put this together here. We have our clinical supervisor, Stephanie Lemoy, and we have our associate manager of mental health, Joanne Michaels. So total 39 of us. Thank you so much. And we're open to any questions, comments.
Thank you. I will now open it up to questions and comments from the board. Does anybody have any questions or comments to start with? Trustee Land.
I'll be very quick. Excellent presentation. I just remember years ago when I first got on the board, we had none of this. And this was just an adventure and a journey. And just to look at it now, I'm so impressed. And I love all the aspects and all the elements that we put into this for our kids for mental health. It's just outstanding. I even as a Burlingame Intermediate School get some access to social workers. And really appreciate the partnership. So, and I really appreciated where we're going, your concern of where we're growing and how to sustain this, because unfortunately budgets are budgets. And if we don't fight for it, we're going to lose it. And I don't want that to happen. So thank you for doing all of this. Appreciate it.
Great. Anybody else? Trustee Griffin.
Thank you for the presentation. I got a question. And you brought up an example of B Street boxing, which is pretty demanding, I imagine. And are there other outlets for people that probably don't want to have to lace them up and put a headgear on and all that?
Yeah, so Hilda Villanueva is one of our mental health therapists at Peninsula High School District. And Eddie has worked with, I think we all know Eddie. And I know when I was a school counselor, if I had students that were not coming to school, but at B Street Boxing, I would, Eddie, they're not coming to school, and he'd work with us, right? So he works with the students at all levels, but that's not the only peer support group that we offer. So we have multiple peer support groups. I can go on and on and on with the different ones. I know Christina mentioned the Latino Boys Affinity Group, and that's just one of many. We have running groups for social skills, just kind of hang out, maybe, you know, get to know other people, other peers. So yeah, you don't have to put on the, what? Dungeons and Dragons is a huge one. So you don't have to put on the boxing, yeah, the boxing gear, but yeah.
I was an advisor for my middle school for D&D, so.
It's very popular.
I saw you get excited about that. That's why.
High school.
We're looking for another advisor.
Let me out of my middle school and I'll do it. But someone's got to play principal for the day. There we go.
You know, there was also it happened that the comment was made related to the TUPE program. But you know, I love the quote that the problem is the problem. And I think the students, the impacted students and their families really have to understand the problem is the problem, not the student. And that is just, I think, so critical. And, you know, and this is like the slogan that, you know, a comfortable place to have an uncomfortable conversation. If that's not really appealing, I mean, I need a comfortable place many times during my day to have those uncomfortable conversations. So it's great program. Thank you.
Could we come and sit on your couch?
Well, we're looking to build out more wellness centers at all of our sites so that you can come and take a seat.
Yes.
Oh, and I think one of the things our seniors said, and mind you, the seniors took the survey because they have to for checkout. So, but we get a lot of great information. They really want us. It's always been therapy dogs. Now it's therapy cats, therapy bunnies, therapy fish. So I didn't know fish were therapeutic in that sense, but hey.
Well, maybe so there are some programs out there that work with the SPCAs.
They come. We have them come twice a year to the sites. Yeah. But
Maybe
they want them daily.
Like a resident
cat.
Trustee Chavez.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for the wonderful presentation. Thank you for each and every person. Thank you. Can I speak tonight? I guess not. Thank you, each and every person, for being here presenting. And I want to thank everybody involved in the wonderful program that we have. I wanted to make a couple of comments. The results from the senior survey, I know that you said it was because they have to take the survey, but regardless of that, I think 1,306 responses is amazing from our seniors. And 96% agree or strongly agree that they know where to go on campus to access wellness support. And that is really important to me as a person and as a mother. And there were several times throughout this past year and last year that my daughter, now she's not a student anymore, maybe I can talk more about it. She doesn't watch these meetings, so that's good. Her and her friends would feel panic attacks, anxiety, extra stress during certain times of the year and throughout the year. And so I kept mentioning to my daughter and her friends that there's the wonderful wellness center at Cappuccino. And I really do hope that all of our school sites can have their own dedicated wellness center soon, if they don't already have, because I think it's really great that students are utilizing that. Well, I'm sorry, what's that?
Did you hear that, Yancy?
Yes. And maybe they can make the rooms larger and some special couches, snacks. You know, we have the budget for that. I wanted to mention something about, this is also attached to the agenda. Table 1, student demographics. So can I talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that school year 2020 to 2021, our total enrollment on the chart here, 9328, roughly 9,300 students received service, 1,173. That's roughly 12.5%. And then you move into the next full year of COVID, and we have 9391 students, so still roughly around 9,300 students, and we have 2,346 students receiving a service, 25%. And then we're still in COVID. The next year it's 23%, and now we're at 22%. And I just want to say that we're doing this right. We're helping each student. We're encouraging students to come and get support. And the numbers have doubled. Not the enrollment numbers, but the enrollment has gone down slightly, but the number of students receiving service and the percentage matches. Of course, the percentage doubled. And I hope that we doubled staff. I'm looking at our leadership here. I'm hoping that we doubled staff, but I wanted to mention what a wonderful job.
Thank you. And we actually have doubled staff over the 8 years.
Yes.
So we've been able to do that. And I think it's important to note that although those are the amount of students we've seen, it's not the only time we saw them.
Right.
So
that's right.
We had multiple times that we met with students.
I just meant the trend of doubling students being seen versus pre-COVID. Right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Great. Is there anybody else? Yes, Trustee Jacobson.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful, and it helps me understand a lot more about the programs that we offer. I know Trustee Chavez and I attended a session at the CSBA conference about chronic absenteeism, and so I appreciate all of the work you're doing on that front. I like what you said about how the parents have the biggest impact and how much you're doing to support parents and these groups and how they appreciate it and how, you know, they wanted more and you're giving them more. Thank you so much, because the parents, I feel very strongly that they have such an impact and we need to engage with them. So I also want to thank you for providing all these sessions in Spanish. I think it was you too. And that was something that our DLAC group had asked for. Were education sessions in Spanish specifically related to substance abuse. So yay. And then I had the idea for maybe for one of these groups, these special interest groups, you could have kids come volunteer at the Peace Pantry Garden. I know that gardening is so therapeutic, and not only would they be doing something therapeutic, but also giving back to the community. So you should talk to Brett Stevenson about that.
We might be able to make that one of the ETA groups.
Great. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And then I had a question about, okay, two questions. One, snacks. What do they like? Because my daughter likes to bake. She would love to have some people to eat her baked goods.
I'll be
Sure.
sure.
All right.
Anything.
Okay, I'll tell her. And then second question, technology, phones. Is this something that you find comes up a lot as impacting the mental health? I know that some of our campuses have, I know San Mateo has Yonder pouches. I think Peninsula does.
Too.
Do you notice that makes a difference, a positive impact on mental health for kids?
Well, one of the Parent Connect sessions focused on technology and addiction and gaming addiction. And what we noticed is that, yes, when we do house visits and the kid is tired because they were up all night on their phone, checking their Instagram, their Snapchat, or whatever new app that comes out, you know, every day. So we are addressing those concerns there to see how they can connect. And also just the normacy of being able to have dinner with your family without having a phone interruption. So those are the dialogues and conversations we have in Parent Connect to help support with the technology addiction that we're facing today.
Great.
This is definitely a big concern for many of the parents that come to Parent Connect. They ask us for strategies on how to help their kids take a break from technology, because they see the excessive amount of time spent on devices, and it's really impacting their family life, their school functioning, because they're going to bed late, they're not attending school on time. Like Dago said, they're really tired. They also get very irritable when they're addicted to games. They don't like to be interrupted. It creates a lot of conflict. So we
Yeah, we provide a lot of information, intervention strategies to try at home, ideas to replace, like if you're going to take away technology, what kind of quality time, like bonding experiences can you have with your child? Like come up with different activities to do with them as a family so that they're not always on their devices, right? Because sometimes it's kind of used as a babysitter too.
Totally.
Yeah, so it's a big topic and they're very interested in talking about it. I also want to add that for Parent Connect, we do have a Spanish group. It's in Spanish and English, two separate sections.
Super.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I just wanted to mention when you were speaking about the whether or not how we see it impact students at school. I like April said, I work in the therapeutic elective classroom, and I have a very small group of kids, and so our room is their like hangout. This is where they come during lunch, brunch. We've made it a really safe space for a lot of different students, not even just our own TEC students. But when we're asking how technology is impacting our students, I see it every single day with my kids. Every single day they're on their phone and who's beefing with who and who's going to catch a fade and who they're going to fight here and there. And it just distracts them completely. And I know next year we're moving towards pencil pouches to put the phones in at Burlingame High School. And I'm hopeful that that'll help. It's just really hard to take phones away from students at this point. But we're really hopeful that we can start to make some changes because it's so distracting and it really does impact their mental health. They're worried about somebody who they don't even know what they think of them.
Do you talk about that with them?
Oh,
Just, I mean, just in terms of a personal action, not even just a school policy, which should definitely be something that is explored, but just in terms of, do you see how this is impacting your feelings?
Yep, and we've talked about blocking these other people, and we've talked about all those things, and they sit there and they struggle with blocking somebody that is making their life absolutely miserable. And they just, but what? What is stopping you from blocking this person from having access to you and having power in your life? They don't pay your, I mean, they're teenagers, mom and dad pay their bills, but what impact really, truly does this person have on your life? Why are you allowing them to have power over you, live in your head rent free for no reason, with no value? They're not, pushing you down from going to school. They're not pushing you down from making the absolute most of your life. You are, because you're so absorbed in the phone and not accessing your education. You're not paying attention because we're on our phones and we're worried about what somebody else is wearing or who somebody else is dating and what they're saying about you. For what?
And it's the group chats, and it's the Snapchat, and it's the who did what.
It's the fight clubs. I'm telling you,
it's
we
crazy.
Call them fight club.
Middle school. I mean, yeah.
It like elevated all that from being
It's a huge issue. I mean, how do you get them to really turn it off? And and now even those Yonder pouches, there's a way to subvert it, and that's what's happening some places.
Oh yeah.
Yep. 2 phones. Yes, the one that goes in Yonder, and the one I
Yeah.
use to text everybody. And
Their trap phone.
Sorry, I just relate and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, any other comments?
Just want to say thank you again.
Great. I have some comments. Yeah. Thank you so much for everything you all do. Mental health is so important. It could just like make or break everything, and it doesn't have to be some gigantic problem. It could be even little things. So thank you. I know that they've made such an impact in my own kids' lives when they were here. I really like that you all really get to know the students. And so you can just tell when there's something up. You're like, hey, what's going on with you? I really, really like that. So thank you. Peer support is one of my most favorite things in the world. I think it's so important to hear your peers either struggling with the same thing and how they did better, or just, bouncing ideas. I think that's it's probably the most impactful, because it's peer to peer. It's somebody that lives life just like you do. And so I really am glad that you all do a lot of different peer support, because that's very, very important in the reinforcement, especially with the parents that talking about not the most happy parts of your life. It's really important to validate. And when you are going through something and you are validated, it changes everything, your perspective, your outlook. You will provide hope. And so that's so, so, so good. I do like the Boys Affinity Group. I think, it's funny, I think in time we focus a lot on the boys, and then the girls need help, we focus a lot on the girls and the boys need help, so it's I'm glad that there is a pivoting, there is room for it all. And so thank you for doing that. That's excellent. Especially around the stigmatization and changing that. In so many communities, there is a stigma of mental health and asking for help. It's what do you mean you're letting people know our family business? Don't tell everybody that. And it's important to be honest, right? But to have a place that you could trust, like Trustee Griffin was saying, I also like that, a place where you can talk about, really hard things. So, and feel the freedom to do so. It's really important. Thank you. I also I don't know if you could speak to how, with the dehumanizing language and a lot of these issues that we're having, just externally also in our society, how has that impacted the students' mental health? If anybody has some anecdotal stuff.
I'm going to let Jessamy and Amelia talk, but I will say there is definitely a level of students just being desensitized. And that's really difficult when they don't think it's a problem. So, but I'll let Jessamy and Amelia talk.
I'll say from what I've seen with the specific group, dehumanizing language, most of the time it's meant in a joking way. So the student it's not really how we perceive it, that they're really saying something particular to one person. Usually it's a joke about no one in particular, and somebody overhears it and didn't like it. So it's really not targeted generally at one person from what we've found over the years. And so I do a lot of discussion about what's funny and what's not funny, and really making school to me into somewhere. I mean, I've even started saying it's more like church, maybe. You need to know that people are watching you, and to be on your top-notch behavior. You're not out with your friends at the mall when you're at school. And I just think kids, that's become a line that is really blended now, and that maybe needs to come back. School is it's a serious place, and you really need to pay more attention to what you're saying, even casually to your friend, because people are listening and they don't want to hear it. And so that's what I have started to tell students that I'm seeing.
Yeah. And everywhere, right? You're a representation of your family.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Of your values. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, mostly it's, 15-year-old boys, and they're trying out the humor, right? And that's how they relate to each other. And they just, haven't really grown up yet. So it's a good reminder for them that that's not cool. And, so that's really what I say. Do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say that that was the first thing that popped into my mind, is that truly that one of our experiences is that when we do get the context, the problem is often in the context. It's that, somebody was trying to be funny, somebody was trying something on, it didn't work, They weren't thinking about their environment and who else was listening. And that's one of the things we'll talk about is like, if you go to work, you can have one relationship with your work, with your employment. When you're with your friends, you might have a different relationship. When you're with your family, you might have a different relationship. In all these contexts, you might use different language and you might have different relationships. And it's really important to be thoughtful about those things. And so we talk a lot about context and the power of context. And that's really what we experience is it's a lot of times it's jokes gone wrong. It's impact intent is a big conversation that we have with our students. Yeah.
Can you also give me some examples of how you address, like we've had some issues, you know, obviously, how do you address that with the students? Like if they are put in a, more of like a disciplinary situation, what are some of the things that you all do when you're working with them? Say if they do get wellness, therapy or services?
Yeah. I mean, that is what we're doing. So we talk a lot. Well, first, the most important thing is allowing them to tell their story without judgment. So we ask the restorative justice questions to every single student. And not only did they love telling their story, but the other students in the group love hearing the stories because it makes them feel like they're not the only one in the world.
Validation.
Yeah, exactly. And they also learn a lot from hearing what other students did, like, oh, I'm not going to do that next time. So they get a lot just from hearing all the stories. So that's a lot of it. And then we talk a lot about empathy and just understanding that, you know, people are having a tricky time at home. You really don't know anything about a lot of these people that you're with. So, you know, just think about that. I mean, don't forget, these are oftentimes 15-year-old, 14-year-old boys. They haven't given a lot of thought to other people in the world. Humor, you know, and how to navigate that and think about that. Talking about stereotypes. What else? Yeah, social constructs, like Jasmine was kind of saying, and just, you know, there isn't, you know, society is telling us how to be a boy, how to be a girl, how to be, you know, high school is a social construct also. So just everything. And so, you know, just really kind of taking it up a level and having them think about just bigger things than just this one act that they said in one moment. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I would just add that one of the things we talk a lot about is that problems are good for us. These experiences are good. These are learning, they're opportunities for us. We welcome them in. We're like, we want you to be here. We want to have this conversation. It's good that you had this experience. This is how we learn. Problems make us who we are. How we respond to them make us who we are. And we want to right-size problems because we're going to have problems. We're not eradicating problems. We're not that powerful. None of us are. So what do we do when they come into our lives? So we have a lot of discussions around that, and they're powerful and they have really great ideas and beautiful minds and wonderful brains and hearts. And we love getting to hear the problem and then all the other parts of their story too.
Wow, this is great. Thank you so much. I have a million other questions, but I'll talk. Yeah, I'll save it for the advisory committee. Thank you very, very much. Are there any comments from the public?
There are none.
Okay, great. All right, and I believe this is just a info only, right? Great. Well, thank you again. Excellent. Okay, going on to second semester.
All right, in the understanding of we're running late here, I'm going to go through this presentation at warp speed. I encourage the community, the board, to take a look at the presentation, the memo associated with the presentation, you know, when you have an opportunity. I think the thing that I would say above and beyond anything, well, a couple things. One, to thank Ms. Chalkley and Ms. Happich and Dulce and her whole team for putting this together. I really, really appreciate it. They've done a remarkable job. One of the reasons, I think the biggest reason why we put together the fall and spring highlights and then ultimately the annual report is to help the board and community remember and try to reflect on some of the positive things that we've accomplished this year. As Trustee Lamb said earlier in our evening, the 1,000 days of May and June, and oftentimes the end of the year can drag on, and we have a lot of challenges at the end of the year, and we can sometimes lose sight of all the remarkable things we've accomplished as a district. And I think this presentation and ultimately the annual report looks to honor and celebrate the work of, our over 1,000 employees, our over 9,000 students, all of our families. We might be frustrated or grumpy especially at this time of the year about this, that, or the other, but that shouldn't take away from the remarkable accomplishments throughout the year. And this isn't an opportunity to pat anyone as an individual on the back. It's really to highlight the variety of departments across our district and all the work that they've put in to support and care for our students, our fellow educators, and our families. So I'm just going to move on. You're going to read on your own, but curriculum and instruction with the professional learning days and instructional framework, the PD days that we've talked about, a real emphasis this year and moving into next year. And you're going to hear us talk a lot about multilingual learner programs and support. The DLAC committee, we're taking their feedback very, very seriously. We've already implemented a number of things and more is on the way. The equity work that we've been doing across the district with equity councils and the equity advisory committee as a through line for our district. When students do not feel welcomed or they don't feel like they belong, they will not learn. And it's important that we understand their lived experiences and try to support them through a lens of understanding. Aragon High School, going through the schools, amazing robotics and music and Tech Rise Challenge, really a ton of work around confronting dehumanizing language. We brought this to the board a few board meetings ago and had them present. I'm really proud of the work there. And I know we have a lot more work to do, but I appreciate their jump into it. The Bridge program being its own alternative school, their first dance, they hosted their first dance. They got a lot of firsts coming on as a new school and looking to continue to grow and support them. Burlingame High School with their Sustainable Climate Ready Schools, Young Arts U.S. Presidential Scholars in the Arts nominee, Italian Exchange Program, the Burlingame Bee, and the list goes on and on. Cappuccino High School, a $15,000 community grant that supports their summer bridge program that's different than the bridge program I just talked about. This is a way to orient our incoming ninth graders, our tier 1 teams and workshop Wednesdays, Meet the Mustang event, all these kinds of things. Really, really fantastic. Hillsdale High School, they were featured in Learning Policy Institute's Redesigning High Schools, Humanities Department, Special Olympics, mock interviews, Democracy Day, all those kinds of things. Middle College, 125 sophomores shadowed middle college students on CSM campus, 150 applications, 42 site presentations, field trips, professional development, largest graduating class this year they've ever experienced. Real success stories. Mills High School, 39th grade Hispanic Latinx students were recognized for outstanding achievement from the freshman honor roll. Tier 1 interventions, robotics team, AXA Region 5 Every Student Succeeds Award. They're doing really remarkable things over at Mills. Peninsula High School with the restorative justice practice training, the rewarding of student achievement, family and student events, and the amount of opportunities Ron and Fred and that whole team over there give for students to get off campus and participate in their community is really uncanny. San Mateo Adult and Career Education, they commemorated Black History Month, celebrating African-American art. If you haven't had a chance, please go over to the Smart Center and see some of the paintings. They are amazing. It's some of the paintings you literally just want to sit in a chair and just kind of reflect for a moment. They are outrageously good. ESL graduation ceremony. We've got their graduation ceremony coming up by June 27th, I think, if I have that wrong, sorry. Mental health and wellness fair and such. San Mateo High School, the Hawaii Band Invitational. I have no idea why I didn't accompany them on that event. San Mateo High School Codes, this is the hackathon, the biotech summer. Career Expo, it goes on. And now, so those are school sites. And now we talk about, the big bad district office. I jokingly say that, but all of the district supports this idea in our new logo of that circle surrounding all of our schools, whether it's academic support or district governance and operations, you all, right? Student board council, our study sessions, all those kinds of things. District governance and operations, the Let's Talk events that we put on, and pulling our communities, our 6 cities together. Communications, the communications department this year, outrageously awesome. I mean, they continue to knock it out of the park. And we're going to be migrating to a new website this summer, logos, Golden Apple. I mean, all the stuff we've been doing. It's just, they're great. All of the videos, social media engagement and reels, the trans-created content around transcreation instead of just direct interpretation, Spanish Facebook, all of that. Mental health and wellness, you just heard from. Just amazing. That presentation could have been a 2-hour study session in itself. And to be honest, every single one of these could be a 2-hour study session.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how remarkable these programs are. Student health, student health got a lot of attention during COVID. That attention maybe public facing is pulled back, but the amount of work they're doing in our district to support students and families is amazing. Employee wellness, eco community and wellness and fitness classes and all those kinds of things. It's really cool in this district. I don't see this happening in many other districts. Our athletic training program and department, hosting nursing students from CSM and such, just amazing. Human resources, at the beginning of every year, we have human resources provide a report to the board about how we're attracting, recruiting, retaining staff, seeing our programs growing, and that's just getting better. Dr. Black and his whole team, they do an amazing job. Teacher induction, 26 instructional coaches, the list goes on. Special education, Holly Wade and her whole team. Unified PE course that you all approved this year, the Bay Quest program, Community Advisory Committee for students, families of students with disabilities. All their work is amazing. The Special Olympics that they put on in conjunction with Special Olympics on our campuses. Student services, Don Scatana's program. They are often, and I love the picture of the front desk there, because for many families, these are the first faces our families see when they come into our district. These are the first people they talk to. This, in a sense, is the first impression of our district. You do not get a second chance to make a first impression. They do an amazing job. 2,200 new 8th grade families, 450 student transfers, all done with a smile. And oftentimes those conversations can be contentious. People don't understand, or they're frustrated, or they want help, or they don't know what to do. And all of that. Restorative practices training grant. You heard about alternatives to suspension. You heard about SART teams. Technology. No one really thinks about technology until it doesn't work. It's kind of like payroll. No one really thinks about payroll until something's wrong with payroll. And then, right? So our technology teams do a great job. So does our payroll teams, by the way. They do everyone likes to get paid. So high five to our payroll team. But everyone likes to access the internet, right? And having email smooth and internet searches smooth and all that kind of stuff smooth, secure, all that. So important, and they work around the clock. Business and operations, capital facilities, the amount of construction projects that we have going on all the time in this district, really with no major hiccups, on time, on budget, facilities we're proud of, we want to show off. And then, that comes back to us in rentals when we rent out, and it's going to get to that portion here in a second, but a lot going on. Transportation teams. I mean, these are like the most spirited department in our whole district. I mean, they come to meetings like with big posters and stuff, and they're just a really, really great team. Hiring new van drivers and home to school transportation fleet, electric bus fleet that we're doing, all of that work. Fiscal services, really, really fantastic here. This is a team, I love this second bullet, right? They processed over $231.9 million And that's, you know, payroll and purchasing, all of that. It's again, it's a department that a lot of people don't pay attention to until there's a problem, and yet everything they do is so fantastic in the sense of getting things processed and done and moving along. When there are problems in fiscal services, districts can come grinding to a halt. And we have seen that in the news lately in other districts. It can absolutely cripple a district. And we have such a strong team they're going to present tonight as well. Student nutrition, so many meals that they provide through Universal Meals. And I love how Dennis and his team, they just strive to get better every single year. Scratch cooked meals. They're a department that I think really embodies this idea of continuous improvement. And if you go to the kitchens at each of our school districts, you walk in, you know, the chefs and people working there, they're just so proud. They want you to taste their food. They want you to come in and talk. Like they love their space. And I love feeling so welcomed there. Maintenance operations and facilities use, we call it MOFU. They're really fantastic. You know, $2.3 million in revenue for the general fund in just rental facilities. That doesn't just happen. That takes a tremendous amount of coordination, especially when we have big ticket names coming into our district. Big ticket names, and so we can't attract those kind of big ticket names if we're rinky-dink, if we're not organized, if we're not professional, and that team really is professional. Operations, how things need to get fixed and addressed, and emergency procedures and all of that. Again, no one really notices until something's wrong, and not a lot goes wrong around here. There, maintenance. Their department led by Linda Carlton, amazing, over 3,000 work orders just in the second semester alone across the district. Electricians, painters, carpenters, locksmith. I mean, the list goes on and on. Grounds team, electrical, amazing, just so amazing. Our new little logo here, I love the animated logo, looks really great. And there we have it. So I went as fast as I could. So big thanks to everyone for making this district so special.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, going on to NWIS grant, African American Staff Affinity Group update.
That's all right. Sorry, I'm scrolling on here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
You. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
He's already up at the podium. Thank you. Come on, everyone, come on up. The first thing I want to do before you jump in is I want to thank Trustee Griffin. Trustee Griffin is the one that pushed us to apply for this grant, and the work done by Dr. Kemke and Brian here to land the grant, and then the work done by Ms. Thomas here to implement. Really just an amazing team. But I do, Trustee Griffin, want to say big thanks for pushing us forward there. Really great. So with that, it's all yours, Brian.
They're trying to remember their password. Don't you have a Post-it somewhere? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no.
Let's hope TSG doesn't have a Post-it for the password. Good evening. I'm really going to go as quickly as I can. Board President Andrade Zuniga, trustees, cabinet. Ms. Thomas and I are here tonight to provide you with an important update on our anti-bias grant. I'm going to do a little framing of this, where this work sits in our broader racial equity policy implementation and strategies. And then Candace is going to share the purpose of the grant, early activities in which we've engaged staff, and plans for the future. We're going to conclude by addressing and speaking to the issue of dehumanizing language, and specifically the N-word, which our Black staff are particularly concerned about and have ideas for continuing to address this serious issue, which has already been referenced earlier tonight. So big reminder quickly is, why we're doing this work. It's directly related to the Racial Equity Board policy, which talks about, and again, we got this $200,000 grant last summer under the leadership of Dr. Kemke in order to further our efforts to implement this policy. On the slide, you can see the focus of the policy really is around creating a welcoming but really like affirming and supportive environment for BIPOC students, staff, and families, and ultimately that we eliminate the opportunity gaps for BIPOC students, obviously. This is another reminder about our equity, vision, and mission. I'm not going to read it now, but this is certainly at the heart of the work that we do. And then, I just pulled together this little graphic to sort of situate this in the context of a lot of work we're doing as a district. And you've heard about, honestly, every month over the last 3 months, that we are undertaking as a district to ultimately have schools that are humanizing spaces and supportive of all students, including those that have been historically underserved. And the 4 broad strategies are certainly our new humanizing pedagogy instructional framework, which folks have done a good job of talking about tonight, our ethnic studies courses at the 9th and upper division levels, our work described by Dr. Black back in April related to countering dehumanizing language across our campuses. And in our board memo, you'll find links to those previous presentations, including our presentation on hate speech and student perspectives on hate speech, and BIPOC student in particular perspectives on hate speech. And then finally, the work described tonight related to supporting our BIPOC, but specifically our African-American staff to thrive in their respective roles. I'm going to now hand things off to Candace to discuss the details of the grant and the work that she's led this spring. So you just press the green button to go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Candace. I'm the grant coordinator. I work at Mills High School. So this grant is to provide direct support to our Black educators. And so that's classified in certificate, and also administrators have joined us as well. And it's for professional learning and networking so that we as a Black staff can really thrive in the district. And so the expected outcome of this grant is continued retention of Black faculty so they can thrive in their roles, and the ability to increase educators of color coming into the district. So here are just some key components of the grant: targeted and differentiated actions to meet the needs of our Black educators, programming to disrupt and eliminate the instances of hate speech and bias. We also want to partner with organizations that can help us design experiences and affinity support for educators so that we can meet their specific needs. Providing a sense of community, which is a big aspect of what we did this year, developing a deep understanding of the experiences of our Black educators and students. So why a focus on Black staff and what can we do, which is targeted universalism. So basically, if the goal is increased retention of BIPOC teachers, so targeted universalism, and this is from the Othering and Belonging Institute at UC Berkeley, is basically a framework which is saying that you don't have to choose between targeted support and kind of universal support, and there is a way to mix the two to get the goal that you want. And so by using targeted strategies to recruit and support and retain Black faculty, staff, and administrators, you could then increase overall recruitment and retention of BIPOC faculty, staff, and administrators, and ultimately for better outcomes for everyone in the group. So if you think about it, it's kind of like bowling. You never bowl to the middle, you bowl to the sides. You've seen the video, right? And you knock down all the bowling pins, right? It's kind of the same thing. So our first event of the year was Thursday, May 2nd. We had a Black staff and faculty event. It needs a name. I will come up with a name, but hopefully this is the inaugural event. So it was facilitated by Ken Shelton and included, again, administrators, classified and certificate employees. There were 19 total attendees, and we had representatives from the DO, LCAP, Mills, San Mateo, Aragon, Hillsdale, and Peninsula. Shout out to Mills. We had the most people there. We have the most Black staff in the district at Mills. And our focus was building community, building capacity, and addressing the N-word, which wasn't even on the agenda, but I'll get to that later. So here are some of the feedback that I got from people who attended. So it was a safe space to open up and hear others. The fact that we could speak freely amongst each other and building community with each other. I benefited from listening to my colleagues and sharing on occasion. The ability to come together in a safe space, discuss real thoughts, feelings without being subjected to microaggressions and denial of our true reality. And it was something that was truly special. So here are our next steps. I would like to do a family-friendly Black to School barbecue. These are all tentative dates. I wanted to be on the weekend because again, I want people to be able to bring their kids, bring their partners, and really again, just about building community. Tentative professional learning dates. So something for in November, kind of in the middle of the school year, something in the new year in January, something for Black History Month. So I just put celebration sometime in February, and then something to round out the year. And then our plan is to continue to work with Ken Shelton and also work with the Black Teacher Project to facilitate these professional learning opportunities. And again, we would also like to increase effort and strategies on how to minimize the use of dehumanizing language and anti-Blackness. I specifically want to talk about that, anti-Blackness. So anti-Blackness is defined as the beliefs, attitudes, action, practices, and behaviors of individuals and institutions that devalue, minimize, and marginalize the full participation of Black people. And it's about the systemic denial of Black humanity and Black dignity. And the thing about anti-Blackness, one does not have to be white to contribute to anti-Blackness or adopt anti-Black attitudes. And I actually believe this is the problem. This is the problem that the district is having when it comes to the N-word, because it's not only racist, it's anti-Black. And so when it comes to the N-word, this is a testimonial from a Black employee in the district. It is my wholehearted belief that the N-word is allowed to be used way too loosely around campuses throughout the district. I hear it way too often. I hear it way too often to be accepted as just talk or quoting of rap music. Today, a student used the N-word towards me after I instructed a group of them to go back into the gym. I couldn't tell who said it, but the fact that it was said is unacceptable. I'm highly offended and mentally traumatized by the lack of attention being given to this matter by the district. I hear the N-word at least 5 times a day while I'm at work. This type of behavior needs to be addressed in a more pointed manner by staff, admin, and district so that students realize that this is not acceptable language or behavior. And so the N-word usage, it varies across the districts. It is mostly said by other non-Black people of color. And I think that was what the wellness counselors were alluding to. And this is a school culture problem. And like I said, it varies with usage throughout the district. So these are just kind of broad things that our district could do. So the problem, some students, teachers, and administrators are not aware of the history of the N-word. They lack knowledge around anti-Blackness and how it operates. Administrators and most teachers do not know how to address this, and they're hesitant to participate and engage in conversations because this makes them so uncomfortable to talk about. Black faculty, staff, and administrators being subjected to these conditions could create situations that allow for a hostile and unsafe work environment for Black employees in the district. So to disrupt anti-Blackness, in addition to targeted universalism, would be incorporating the history of the N-word into the curriculum, and ethnic studies could be a great starting point for this. Teachers and administrators responding quickly to these incidents. There being a greater accountability for students to use the N-word in order to encourage some sense of deterrence from using the word. And also greater accountability for administrators who fail to enact concrete strategies and responses around hate speech in the district. We will also like to see opportunities for restorative justice for students who use the N-word. We will also like our districts and administrators at each site to publicly recognize that this is an issue and announce the steps they're going to take to address it. And we will also like professional learning around the N-word. And any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open it up now to the board. Are there any questions or concerns? Yes, Trustee Griffin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So what percent of the African-American teachers, employees participate in the group?
On my list, I had about over 60, a little over 60. And then I will say about 30 RSVP'd and 19 showed. We did ask people, and a lot of people thought like it was like a joke in disbelief. It was like a lot of people didn't even think it was like a real thing that was happening. And so there is a lot of distrust among Black employees in the district. And so so we're hoping, since the first event was so popular and got so much positive feedback, that more Black employees will show up to the next one.
Yeah.
You kind of answered my second question. I'll hold out hope because I'm aware of at least one person who's wondering how come he never got asked to participate in this. And I think at least individually, you know, when we've been together, I know you've been in the same group, and I will come over and make it a point
Yes.
to listen and ask, you know, like
the barbecue.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I will, I'll look forward to.
Put it on your calendar. You saw the date, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. AP Harris, he won a barbecuing contest apparently, so it should be good. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Trustee Land.
I just want to say, so I get this because the N-word is a huge problem in middle school too. And me and my vice principal, we were just talking about this, and he's at a training in Oakland right now. And I said, the one thing I want is, how are we going to deal with the N-word? We got to deal with this. This is not okay. And I'm just so proud to see this right now. It's just, we got to do something. And I just want to know if there's partnerships with our middle schools to help out.
Okay.
Because one of the things that really is, you know, one of the things that I'm noticing is this year we worked with the high school group. Our affinity group was working with the high school affinity group. We actually went to CSM, to Oakland Museum just this week. Actually, again, our affinity group, our African American affinity group, went with parents and kids and families in elementary school, middle school, and CSM. I think this is part of what we need to do. And just to hear that we got this grant is just so impressive. So congrats and thank you for us to do this, because I think it's critical. Whatever we learn and whatever we implement, I want to know about it, because it needs to spread. It needs to go to other places to take care of this problem, because it is universal. I mean, it's happening too many places, and I'm done with it. And I'm trying to, as an administrator, as a principal, I'm trying to go, what can I do to get this to stop? Because it's so pervasive. And you've hit it on the head when you talk about BIPOC. You know, there are other POC groups that are doing it, and kids, and why and how do we get this? And then there's even this inane conversation about A versus R at the end, and what do we deal with? And one's different than the other, and what does that mean? And you know, and it goes to what you're talking about with history and song, and it's not acceptable at any level. So I'm just very impressed and happy to see this in action. So thank you very much.
I was kind of saying earlier, that was not on our original agenda whatsoever. But when we sat in our community circle and we were kind of introducing ourselves, and it just naturally came up because it is such a problem, and it actually took up the rest of our time after our lunch, sitting there and discussing this. So
great. Trustee Chavez.
Thank you. I wanted to say thank you for the presentation and congratulations on the grant. I mean, that's a lot of work, you know, applying for the grant and writing that up and pushing forward. And thank you for Trustee Griffin for pushing for that or suggesting it. You guys did the work. Trustee Griffin can suggest it. Oh, you wrote the grant. Oh, thank you, Dr. Kemp.
You got to get credit all around here.
Thank you for that. That's great. So I wanted to mention a few things. One thing I wanted to mention was that's great that you organized the barbecue. I wanted to mention that I don't really talk about where I work too often because I don't really talk about where I work too often because no one likes to pay their electricity bill. But I will tell you, I've been there almost 30 years. We have about 10 employee groups, right? Because everybody likes to hang out in a group, even though you're too busy to work, but you organize things on the weekends or you do, you have celebrations. So we have several employee groups, Latino employee group, Women's Network group, Pride group, Asian group, Access group to help with those with disabilities and to advocate for, but I want to tell you that, and I'm going to botch this, I know I have it wrong, but I have this piece right. Our longest standing employee group is our Black employee group. And I think it started in the 50s. That's the part I'm not sure if it was the 50s or 60s, but it's been over about 50 years. And they are strong. And I think that I just wanted to mention that, I wanted to mention a little bit of a tidbit that's our oldest employee group at PG&E. And you should be very proud that you started the barbecue, the inaugural barbecue. Think of a good name though. I was trying to think of one, but I can't. But on a more somber note, because that was more of congratulations. I don't like to hear the N-word, just like nobody else does. And I have teenagers, well, now they're 18 and 20, but when they're in middle school, and that's where it starts, you hear the music and you can blame the music, but you can and you can't, because you can hear something and you can change the channel, you can turn it off. And then when you start to repeat the N-word, that's where I say, get out of my car. Turn that music off. I'm paying for Apple Pay, or friends will come in the car. I don't want to be rude and disruptive, but we have to disrupt that. They're not saying the N-word in my car, but you putting on a rap song, they'll tell me it's a Black person singing it. It's okay. I don't know what we can do. I know we can't solve that here at this meeting, but I think, and this is where conversations get crunchy. As a society, we have to say, that's rap music. It doesn't matter if a Black person is singing that song. That doesn't mean that you can say it, you can sing the song. That's what I've been telling my kids. And so, my kids they're not singing the song. I'm telling you, sometimes I become the person who brings everyone's kids home, right? Yeah. And then they got music playing from their phone, and I'm like, turn it off. Yeah. Turn that off.
Also, I think people get the idea that a lot of Black people themselves use that word because Black artists use it in their music.
Right.
When actually Black people don't say the N-word a lot either.
Okay.
And so I think that's actually not a misperception of the music, but that Black people themselves use the N-word a lot, which or at least the Black people I hang around with, we don't.
Right.
Yeah. So I definitely do think it is a perception problem as well of the music.
You're absolutely right. You're spot on. And I think that my daughter, now I won't have my ears right there because her friends, my daughter, for all of our parents in here, sometimes you get more information from your children's friends. So that would ask them questions. And one of them told me that, earlier this year, there was a teacher at school that was offended because someone said that word. And I said, you guys need to stand up for what you know is right. Now, no one wants to, that's where you have to look inward and stay true to your moral compass and speak up, and I told it to my daughter's friends. And so, but I didn't want to cut off the information because otherwise they're going to say, well, she's going to preach to me about, but they know to do the right thing. So I do think it's a problem at all of our school sites, and it kind of starts with middle school. So if Greg, if you get on that, no, I'm just kidding.
I was just talking about that earlier. I'm like, I want to learn from them.
It starts there, and when
it
comes to the high school, it's just perpetuating. And you can't go to the workplace. You can't walk out in society and say that in a grocery store. You can't say that at a workplace. We have to. And think of all the people that are being hurt by this. We have to, I don't know the answer, but I want to say that I'm glad that we're looking at this. And it's one of those crunchy conversations that's hard to have.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much. It was a great presentation. I really like the strategies that you came up with to disrupt this language. It's so confusing to me because I feel like I've known for just so long that you're not supposed to say that. It's hard to understand how this has creeped into our culture. So I don't know so much, but I appreciate you creating this group. I believe that it's very important for people to have spaces where they can come together and feel safe and where they're with their people. And so yeah, I appreciate that. I'm glad people had a good experience. I hope they come back. You get more. My daughter's best friend is Black. She goes to Cappuccino, and she has had, I don't think the N-word said specifically to her, but she has had some very racial incidents that were very hurtful to her. And the teacher didn't do anything. We absolutely have to have more training. We have to, you said teachers don't know what to do. They feel uncomfortable. And so I'm glad that you recognize that as a problem. And I think putting that in the ethnic studies curriculum is a great idea too, because that way everybody gets it in 9th grade. And anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your presentation. Just knowing you as a teacher, you're really impactful, and you're very, very committed to educating people. And I think this is really important how this is going forward in our district. Now, please invite your fellow Afro-Latinos too, because we're all part of the same community.
There were a couple there.
Oh, awesome. Excellent, excellent. Well, I really want to join, and I want to come and join the barbecues too, because that's the best time. I wanted to also ask about the parents and the families. Are you all engaging the parents as well? How do we communicate this stuff to our families? And a lot of this is learned behavior, whether it be through music or through what's going on at home, your environment. So I guess maybe what are some tips maybe, or some like ideas on how to talk with parents, or maybe some examples? Have you had these conversations before with parents?
So I can certainly defer to Ms. Thomas, but I think, we know that there's like a family strategy necessary here. I think it's connected to our broader efforts around racial equity in general, right? Just kind of informing our families about that. So, and you're a part of the equity advisory, and so we've talked about some more outreach that needs to happen. I think we've, in fact, I was just talking with Dr. Kemke about this earlier today, that we really need to kind of take our show on the road, I think, to families around a lot of the different dimensions of what we're engaged in. I kind of put it on that one slide as one simple way to talk about it. Probably need to get Ms. Chalkley to help me make something more fancy, but I think I think we need to do some outreach to families, and the N word would be an explicit part of this. I think, I don't know if you want to say anything, Superintendent Brooker, but yeah, I think you want to add anything in terms of family outreach?
I don't know much about family outreach about the N-word, and I'm not a parent, so that's why I didn't want to comment on it. I do want to say a lot of Black employees, they had a lot of questions about what the district is doing, and Brian was able to be like, oh, they're doing that, and it was amazing to have Jonathan and Diego there, because they also have kind of like an insight on like, oh, the district has this and has that, but Black teachers and Black, especially if you're classified, they don't know. So I think also sharing, and that's why I said announcing that this is, or saying that this is a problem, and here are some of the things that we have going on. Because I think sometimes the perception is the district is doing nothing, when that is not necessarily true.
Right.
So sharing things like this grant, which I've shared with Black faculty and staff, but also just other things that the district has done behind the scenes or on other fronts, just to let the staff know that we know this is a problem, we hear you, and this is what we have going on, and we're going to continue to work on this.
Well, it makes me think about also the PTSOs. I know that there's folks on the PTSOs that I know that would do some of this type of work as well. So it'd be great to partner perhaps with some of them. I know there's a woman over at Mills, the Mills PTSO Joy. Joy, she's amazing. And so I'm sure she would love to collaborate. And then with the Latino parent groups too. I mean, we have a lot of anti-Blackness in our own culture, a lot of colorism everywhere, right? And so it would be great to talk about that, because we do have some Afro-Latino families in our group as well that could also be part of this. So maybe we could talk about like even having some translators at some of your, that kind of have some folks come and join that maybe wouldn't feel comfortable because they don't speak English. So thank you. Thank you very much for doing this. Thank you for your presentation. Oh yes, sorry, go ahead.
I just have one more comment. I know we're kind of pressed for time, but that's why you have to say, well, this is really important. I like the fact of incorporating this into the curriculum in ethnic studies could be a starting point, because I was just thinking when you were speaking, Trustee Andrade Zuniga, that, and I mentioned this before last month when we talked about dehumanizing language, and I mentioned that my daughter and her friend, they were in it was an elective class this semester, but still, some boys bumped them and made some derogatory comments about their weight. So that was dehumanizing. It wasn't racially motivated, but it was dehumanizing, and they didn't feel comfortable telling an adult at school. They felt embarrassed. And I mentioned this at at one of our meetings last month. And so for the next few classes, they kind of ditched that class. Now it's an elective. It doesn't matter if it's elective or not. You should not skip class. But I understand from a mental awareness point of view, they felt so bad that they didn't want to go to that class. So they waited till they felt better to go, right? I was just thinking, and I'm not an expert at this, but if during the ethnic studies class, if we had, obviously it would need to be somebody who felt comfortable, and maybe it's anonymous, but just some writings of some students, how they feel around, how it makes them feel when they hear the N-word said to them, right? Now, of course, no one's going to want to go say that, right? Because these are teenagers, but I just meant like anonymously or something district-wide, or maybe there's, I don't know, a community resource where there's other folks within the community, or just, I just think that if students knew how much hurt, like if those two boys knew what the hurt they caused to girls in the class, to feel that pain, to not want to come back to class for a couple of class times, right? I'm thinking that we're all human and we don't really want to see anybody get hurt, right? So I'm just wondering if students really could understand the pain that it caused, if that would help them to understand the pain that it would cause, and that they would care so much that they wouldn't want to cause any pain. But that would, if that could be put somehow into the ethnic studies class. I'm not sure.
There is something like around, I don't remember if I don't remember who said this, but there was with like victim impact stuff.
Okay.
Like talking with people that you're hurting.
Yes.
You know, like,
Well,
do we do anything like that?
Well, if you go back to the mental health,
Yes.
talking about restorative questions,
Yes.
Right.
those are the first
Restorative
questions that go out.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what I'm really happy to hear, and it's kind of nice to hear from both the mental health and what was going on
Yes.
there, and also
Yes.
the grant here, because
Right.
you take it from both an academic approach and talking about management and how do we deal with it and address issues,
Right.
but to also the mental health issue of how are the victims feeling. And how do you reconcile that, and how do you create a safe place, an environment to really help them understand what their impact was.
Yes. That's what I'm getting
and I
at,
think
yes.
Maybe that's something, that was one of the things that my vice principal and I were talking about
Yeah.
was, well, how do we have an adult, talk about that impact of that N-word and what that has done and what that has done to their lives, and, really make an impact in some way. And sometimes kids have a hard time expressing themselves of
Yeah.
how it impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
Right.
what they do is they just kind of blow it off because, oh yeah, that's a cool, whatever. And it's
Deep down
not,
inside, they're
and
hurting.
it has to
Yes.
go deeper because
Yes.
it's institutionalized.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
you're
Right.
trying to break that.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not an easy answer.
Right.
And I'm glad you're bringing it up, but
Yeah.
I think this grant hopefully can
Yes, that's
really
right.
reach
That's right.
deep for this.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Thank you.
Sorry.
And especially through our communities. I mean, our kids not only are experiencing it at school, but in the environment in our society. Like, there was a letter sent to the city council in San Mateo recently that was really disgusting. Very, very, very heavy in white supremacy. And this is in San Mateo. So there's like posters and stuff put up all over the community. Really stupid, nasty posters. And so like our kids are seeing that. They're walking home from school. They're hanging out with their friends. They're going places with their families. And so not to mention like what that does to an entire family, right? That's very, it's very hurtful. And that's partly why I was asking the questions about the influence on the mental health of people and racism. It's completely related. So I really, really, really love this. So thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any comments from the public?
There are none.
Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Going on to Division of Human Resources.
All right, I'll do my best to impersonate Dr. Black, and we'll go quickly here. Tonight, we have 3 items, on the personnel consent agenda. We have personnel actions, an MOU with Design Tech for teacher induction, and an approval of a side letter for new teacher at Peninsula.
I make a motion to approve the human resources consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Land and a second by trustee Griffin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait a minute, we need comments.
Yeah, comments.
Yes, we need comments. Board comments. No board comments? Public comments.
There are none.
Okay, and since we already approved, then we'll move on to the next item.
Before we do, I just want to recognize 4 employees that submitted their retirements. Michelle Ganella, adult school teacher, effective June 30th. She's been with the district 7 years and 11 months. Ron Claiborne, school plant operations employee at Aragon, effective May 31st, and he's been with the district 19 years and 8 months.
Wow.
Sandra Murtaugh, college career and financial aid advisor at Mills High School, effective June 6th, and she's been with the district 16 years and 3 months. And Elizabeth Walters, instructional assistant 2 at Hillsdale High School, effective June 30th, and she's been with the district for 2 years.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have our personnel actions addendum. That's a full packet with classified certificated athletic coaches, substitute employment and such.
I make a motion to approve the personnel actions addendum.
Hold on a sec. We've got to do comments first. You're throwing me off here. Comments from the board. Comments from the public.
There are none.
Thank you. Okay.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
A motion by trustee trustee Land, second by trustee Griffin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Next is the approval of declaration of need for fully qualified educators. We do this annually. No surprises here whatsoever.
Okay, great. Scroll up for me. Superintendent Booker, can you scroll?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
doing the things
No,
here
you're
at
good.
once.
You're good.
There we go. Yep.
I know Dr. Black's not here, but I have a question.
Go for it.
So when we do this, are these including waivers of teachers out of credential?
It could be. So what this is saying is these are certain positions that we're anticipating we may need. And when we indicate those, it gives us flexibility in the future. Now, we haven't had to do that in the last number of years, but it does give us the flexibility of authorized outside of credential.
Thank you.
But we have not utilized that for years and years, to my understanding.
Understandable. I think we just have one waiver.
Okay. Let's see, comments from the board. Comments from the public.
There are none.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the declaration for need for fully qualified educators.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Land, second by trustee Griffin. All in favor?
Aye.
So when we talk, can we slow down a little because our ASL interpreters are trying to catch up? Thank you. Okay, approval of the newcomer position.
Yeah, so this is really exciting. This is our way of really developing a program and a system to support our newcomer ELD soccer league. So this is an approval of a new job description, the soccer league coordinator position.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the board? Comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Land.
Second.
Trustee Griffin seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, approval of counselor.
In response to the DLAC and the ELAC recommendations, a 1.0 FTE intake counselor and instructor for newcomer students job description has been developed to address the extra time and support our newcomer families and students need when they first arrive in the U.S. and specifically at the San Mateo Union High School District.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Chavez.
Second.
Second by trustee Jacobson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Approval of the CTE pathway.
Yeah, the district requests board approval of the revised CTE pathway lead stipend from $5,000 to $8,000 due to the increased responsibilities.
Thank you.
That's great.
Any comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. Motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion by trustee Chavez, second by trustee Land. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, approval of the memorandum of understanding and job description.
Yeah, the district's Bay University Adult Transition Program accommodates students transitioning into adulthood. And this is an MOU and a job description for a new, basically head position for Bay University, department head position.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Questions, comments from the public?
There are none.
Motion? I will move to approve which one was this
MOU
one?
and-
The MOU for
Sorry, there it is.
yes, for the Bay University.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, I made the motion, second by trustee Griffin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, there's nothing from Division of Student Services.
No.
Anything from Division of Instructional?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this item is the professional development contracts for the 24-25 school year. Aligned to our equity work, we are proposing to continue contracts with several providers. Many of these we've been in community with for 3 to 4 years, some of them longer. This includes Shane Saphir and Joe Truss. We've had a ongoing partnership with them. Originally, we went into contract with them because we had put out an RFP for our equity work to train all staff in anti-racism and develop language around how we talk about racism. We started out with a fairly large contract. This is much reduced, and really it's for 2 schools that continue to request their coaching, PD coaching. So that's Mills High School and Middle College, both still use specifically Joe Truss. So he's working with their PD team, coaching their PD team, and then giving direct professional development to them. The satisfaction rate from both the administrators there who he's coaching their teams and the staff has been really positive. The middle college team in particular has been really happy with the support. They're a pretty small staff. So they really, it's nice to have somebody help with their facilitation. They're doing a lot of visioning, I know now. They also will do 2 days with our ILT team. So as you saw for the 2 days of professional development, it was a whole effort by the whole ILT team that included Brian, myself, Sabby, Marlo, all of us were facilitators. In order to continue our work and facilitating professional development, we also need support in our own learning. So we've found both Shane and Joe are helpful in that because they have a lot of the district context. So that's one of the contracts there. So it includes work with Mills, Middle College, and then our ILT team. The other contract is Restorative Equity Partnership. They provide direct training for our student equity councils. So again, this was a fairly large contract 3 years ago because they helped launch the student equity councils. We've reduced it quite a bit because we've created some internal capacity with our student equity coordinators. And really, we're just using them for onboarding. So they support onboarding new students. So oftentimes that's our 9th graders, and then they support the kickoffs. Then we have 2 professional development contracts with San Mateo County Office of Education. They're providing UDL specific for supporting teachers who have MLs in their classes, which is almost all of our teachers. And then EL Achieve. EL Achieve, I think our partnership with them actually predates me. I think we've been in partnership for 10 years. So they are kind of one of the experts in ensuring that we're creating structures in classrooms for multilingual support. So there are contracts for each one of them. Effective Use Solutions is coaching support for our tier 2 teams at the schools. We've been using them for about 3 years. And they have a really research-based way of ensuring that we identify students who need tier 2, basically students that might need a little additional support and maybe not a full support class, matching them with appropriate interventions. And then there's a small contract. We usually put that on consent, but because we had all of them here, is with Jerice Butterfield. She is a reading specialist in ELD, supporting our work around addressing the disproportionality. So believe that's all the contracts that we have on this. We kind of do this annual moment because, we're at that point of renewing them all. So that is the oversight. I don't have a presentation for it, but all of those contracts are attached.
Thank you, Dr. Kimke. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I just have one quick comment, and I can't find it, and I may have dreamed it up, although I doubt it. That guide that was written in terms of pricing and structure and how you looked at things, I think really helped.
Oh, yeah, that was included, I think, in earlier information. I don't know if
Like
I
a
did.
weekly. or
Yeah,
something.
I think it was
yeah.
one,
So
wasn't it?
we have like average, we look at the average going rate of a lot of these contractors, and all these contracts are in the going rate.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get some big names, you can spend a lot more on a keynote. If we had
Yeah.
Loretta Hammond, for example, who's a pretty big name in the education world, she would cost us a little bit more. But most of these are well within the average range for
Yeah.
the work, the daily rate.
Thank you for your work with all this.
Yeah.
Trustee Jacobson.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you tell me like how much the Joe Truss and Shane Saphir were involved with the development of the instructional framework, and as opposed to how much was done by our own ILT team?
Our ILT team put, I don't know, upwards of 40 hours probably in the work of visiting classrooms. The Shane Saphir and Joe Truss, what I would say is their contribution is they help facilitate some of the thinking and brainstorming around all of the data coming together and thinking about how we put it in to kind of a more concise vision. But almost 99% of the instructional framework has been done by the ILT team. So as you heard at the professional development, a lot of it is from the actual visits to classrooms. And then most of the ILT time is actually facilitated by Marlo. The couple days that we have with Shane Saphir and Joe Truss really are to support the team's growth, so that Marlo doesn't have to think about facilitation. He can be thinking about being part of the team on those times. So
I see. Well, I just want to share with the board some insights about them. I attended the Professional Development Day in January of 2023, where Joe and Shane did the keynote. My impression was not very favorable. I felt that Joe Truss relied on emotional manipulations of pity, fear, and shame to win recruits rather than with substance. Shane's presentation was quasi-religious in nature. I felt it was inappropriate for a professional setting. She had a video of student interviews that was good. Since then, I've spoken to a number of teachers, and I know you shared that they had some favorable reviews. I have some unfavorable reviews that maybe were afraid to come forward. Some said that it's obvious that the move to hire them was reactionary, and some said that their message was preaching to the choir and it was prepackaged rather than adapted to our specific needs, that it lacked substance, included false claims, presented flimsy ideas as absolute truth. They report that many voted with their feet or their keyboards to avoid these professional learning sessions. One teacher told me that the language of white supremacy culture and anti-racism turned a lot of people away. I've also read articles written by Shane and Joe, and I agree with the criticisms that I just spoke of. I see a number of problems with their approach, beginning with the fact that a lot of it's based on narrative and not on fact. It doesn't it also just doesn't make sense that many non-white people perform exceptionally well in a supposed white supremacy culture. The very phrase is a microaggression on non-BIPOC people, but in the paradigm of anti-racism, there's no such thing as anti-white racism, because they've redefined the meaning so that only those with power and privilege can be racist, which is unfair. In his writing, Joe Truss uses capital letters for all races except for white, and intentionally uses lowercase for white people, and this is dehumanizing. But the biggest problem is that it is impossible to dissent with the framework of anti-racism because dissent is easily dismissed as white fragility. Dissenters are intimidated into silence out of fear for being labeled racist. Do we really want to be a district where staff and students self-censor out of fear and that forces compliance through intimidation? These consultants operate in a single-story framework of anti-racism with a single-story problem, white supremacy culture, and a single-story solution, which we must pay them to teach us. There are many thinkers, white and people of color alike, who openly reject this anti-racist narrative promoted by people like Truss. And I also would add that the reading list that informed the instructional framework was very single story. If we want our students to engage in open inquiry and civil discourse, we need to do it ourselves. So I suggest that we broaden the scope of experts that we look to and that we not renew that contract. I also suggest that we not renew the contract for the restorative equity partners. I looked at the curriculum for the students, the Liberty Catalyst Leadership Liberatory Curriculum, and I feel it has many of the same problems that I just outlined. So those would be my recommendations to the board. The other contracts look good to me.
Could you give some examples of what you mean, like by what some of those things were? I didn't get the same reaction you did, so I'm just trying to understand, like, what were some examples and what you described that made you feel uncomfortable?
Sure. So for example, Joe Truss, in his presentation, we spent a lot of time paying respects to Tyree Nichols, who had just died from wounds inflicted by police. And he said that it had been a few years since George Floyd had died and that we need to keep the movement going. It just came across that he was using this most recent death as an excuse for keeping up his job security. And I felt that that was disingenuous and manipulative.
But not really, because we feel that. Like in seeing that, for me, it says a lot. I mean, it validates my experience also in this society, and it validates the things that have happened to our communities for so long. It actually names it. So I think the difference in the perception, I believe, is based on your own lived experience through this. So I don't believe it's fair to devalue that, because you don't experience that, but other people have. And so I think that is, that's devaluating, and it's not validating the experience of people that have experienced this stuff.
Well, I would also add that, I also gave some other examples about how he doesn't capitalize white, but he capitalizes other races. The the term white supremacy used over and over again is a microaggression on white people. It is offensive.
How is it a microaggression? Like, give me an
Because it
example.
makes, I'm shaking right now, just talking about it.
So, okay, I think we need to.
It's also a problem that we say that we value all cultures, we respect all cultures, and that everybody is welcome. And then we demonize white supremacy culture specifically.
But why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we think that that's a bad thing, white supremacy culture?
Well, because he says that white supremacy culture is everything that it's the water that we swim in, everything. It feels as though the default American Western capitalist project is being rejected. That's how it feels. That is my experience when I hear those words.
Trustee Land, go ahead.
I respect both opinions, at least what you're thinking from your own perspectives. My perspective from an academic standpoint is I was looking at the ACSD article that Dr. Kemke and Truss and Shane put together. And in reading the article, I mean, the philosophies that come out, I mean, just stay the course, listen, deep listening, centering voices, you know, taking things from the margins. I think opening up to new voices is important. And I think the strategies that are coming across through this training is important. It's not easy. I can't address the W. I agree with you on that. I don't think if everything's one way and it's going to be the other, you're just trying to react to something, and that's not something I approve of. You know, you want to make change and you want to bring it up. So if that's happening, I don't think that's appropriate. And it's one example that I understand. But I think overall, I think the training has been good. I think it's been, well received. I think it's something that we need to continue. Is it uncomfortable in some ways? Yes. I think supremacy is a word that I would not want to use. I think, and if that's the case, that's what we're talking about, is established issues of a culture that needs to change. And I think that's the whole point of what we're trying to do here. But it shouldn't demean anyone, and it shouldn't demean anyone in I'm consider myself. I think what's hard for me is I understand both sides because I'm both white and Hispanic and Latino, and I have a variety, and people look at me in both ways just by the way I look. And so I'm reminded of a conversation where someone in the audience or online years ago accused both Bob and I of being white and whitewashed, and that was insulting in itself. So things are not going to be perfect, but I believe this is what we need to keep going. So I approve and I agree and thank Dr. Kemke for putting a comprehensive list together. I know it's altered from previous PDs that we've done. We've removed some, and I respect that. And I think this is where we need to go. So I'm going to make a motion to, at some point in time when we're done with this discussion, to approve the list of contracts for PD. Oh, is it?
I don't think
It looked like it actually.
The recommendation is that it's
approved, right?
No, it's moving to consent.
To consent.
Yeah, so we're.
Okay, so this is the first reading of it, and I would move it to consent, is what I'm gonna say. Is the motion or
Because
the.
this has
recommendation.
come up this way before we have this process in place.
There we go.
But I do want to just say a few words, because this is, as Superintendent Booker says, we've crunchy conversations. And so I think it's about, respecting everyone's opinions, which I know we that's our mantra, is that we respect each other's opinions. And I do want to say that, Trustee Jacobson, thank you for, I know it's bold and brave to say everything you said. And I commend you for, whether I agree with all of it or some of it or part of it, I commend you for being brave and saying that. And you also mentioned that you heard from teachers and staff members who, had those feelings. So I think feelings are legitimate. And I think my understanding and the way I feel is that white supremacy, anything with supremacy, you think you're better than somebody else because you make more money or because of the color of your skin, any supremacy, I don't think that's, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. With anybody who says that they're better than somebody else because of the car they drive, clothes they wear, the money they make, where they grew up, what country they grew up in. I disagree with that because we're all individual and we are who we are. We're not, and this is hard too to say for me, but, I see both sides like Trustee Land, you know, my kids are 50% Latino. So I think I'm partly Latino just because of my kids, but, that doesn't make me Latino though. I'm 100% white, but I think that we have bias. We have, what's the word? Unconscious bias or conscious bias, implicit bias, or is that the same thing as unconscious bias, implicit bias? Yeah. So we have bias. I mean, look at us here at the table. Would you know that I'm the person who was homeless when I was 6 years old for 4 months, family of 4 living in a car? You wouldn't think that because of the color of my skin. So sometimes I grew up thinking that I was oppressed. I grew up on food stamps. I lived in a car for 4 years when I was 6 years old. Whenever I heard people talk about oppression, I thought that was me. Until later on in life as an adult, that's when I realized some people, whether it's conscious or implicit, they think that, where am I going with this? I know I'm getting emotional. They think that the oppressor is always the white person, but growing up, I always thought that I was oppressed because of our financial situation, our socioeconomic condition of my family. So I just think that, I'm against supremacy, whether it's white, monetarily, any of that. So, but I would just want to say that I just want to say I'm proud of you having the courage to say what you said tonight.
Well, I just want to make it clear to everybody here that I'm not trying to defend white supremacy culture. I'm trying to debunk that as the boogeyman thing that's keeping us from achieving more equality. That's what I'm just trying to differentiate. So please don't misunderstand my words as saying that I'm trying to uphold white supremacy, because that's not what I'm saying. And what I'm trying to say is that if this culture that we're all swimming in without realizing it is actually racist, then why is it that there are many non-white groups who thrive in this culture? That doesn't make sense.
I just want to bring up the fact that I get what you're saying. I just feel like I'm glad this is being brought to the attention. And that's why I think we should, you know, this is a good thing that we're having a controversial issue and we're talking about it. Again, supremacy has to deal with establishment and breaking down what is established. Because the systems and trying to go beyond the systems of privilege and that's what you were talking about, Terry.
Yeah,
you know, when you really think about it, who is oppressing you? Well, the system. And who is in charge of the system? And how is the system working? These are all questions and things that we want children and students to really question and figure out and break this cycle of what was going on. Why do we use the N-word? You know, why do kids do that? Why is the society?
Why is it still used?
Why is it still used?
Just remember that it's used by non-white people. That was
Absolutely.
revealed.
Did you,
But
no,
again-
but did you not hear what Candace was saying? That it's not just but where did it come from? Like, that's the whole thing. That's not true. That is a stereotype. It's misinformation. So here's the other thing. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting you.
Please finish.
The difference is our experiences. Yes, Terry, you were oppressed. I completely hear that. But when you walk into a room and when I walk into a room, it's
I agree.
different. It's
I agree.
completely
I
different.
agree.
Being in this wheelchair, you walk into the room and I walk in the room, it's completely different. That is supremacy. That is supremacy. And people might not agree with me, whatever, but that is an experience that it's very real, and it's not just with me. And so when we talk about that and we want to bring that to light, it's because it's the validation of our experiences. When my parents go to the store, the way that they're treated, it's based on supremacy, and it's still happening. The flyers I talked about earlier that are all over San Mateo right now, it's white supremacy. And that's what we're trying to call out. And I'm sorry if it's uncomfortable, but how do you think we've felt for all these years being stereotyped as gangsters and thieves and uneducated? How many people tell me that I speak very good English? Well, no, duh. I was born in this darn country. It's like, and even if I wasn't, what is that supposed to mean? Microaggressions all the time. So it's just, it bothers me because that is completely invalidating what we're feeling and what we've experienced. This proclamation we read today, that's not just from 100 years ago. That's happening now.
I'm not denying that.
It's happening now.
No, I know. And I was going to say that my friend, I had her meet me at a store. We were shopping for clothes, and my friend's Black, and she got there before me, and she whispered to me, she said, there's two people who have been following me around the store. So I went up to them and I said, she's with you? Okay. I said, I'm not shopping here. You don't do that to my friends. Well, she's the same age as me. I agree that there's microaggressions, and I agree that there's stereotype. What I'm saying is I'm against white supremacy, and I feel bad that
I'm just going to say one thing.
Two older white men running for president right now. Two older white men.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I just want to say this one thing. Again, I'm going to refer to this article that and Dr. Kemke is part of the writing in this, is they bring this up and they talk about it. And in one of the paragraphs, it talks about racial battle fatigue. And what I hear Lehia talking about is this is going on with me all the time. And I have not, as a person who's been perceived as white, does not really get the same problems, and it doesn't experience the same thing. And I think as a white person, I need to recognize the fact that my experience is not the same, and how we need to change and work on it. So again, what I'm going to say is I approve of this PD because they're actually pointing out the problems that we're talking about and arguing about here. Both sides.
Both sides.
Both sides.
And I was just saying, Lehia, that I agree with you that it's still happening now, because as soon as they saw me talking to my friend and that she's with me, they backed away, and I went up to confront them to ask them, why are you doing that? This is, anyway.
I'm not denying your experience or anybody else's experience. I'm pointing out that in this, that the people that I've talked to, we've had these consultants for 3 years, I believe, 4. The message has been received. The teachers that I spoke to said, we don't need people to try to get us to buy into this. Most of the people already buy into it. We need specific tools, which is what the ILT team is providing. What I'm saying is I don't think we need outside consultants at this point to come in and deliver the same message. We have the expertise in-house that we don't need to spend the money on these consultants at this stage of the journey.
But that's what we did. We had them come in and they taught.
And I'm saying I don't think we need to do it anymore.
Dr. Kemke,
you can disagree with me. I'm just saying my piece.
It's a real pleasure to find this crunchy stuff real late at night. And
yeah,
I guess my first concern is, when are we supposed to be talking about agenda cutoff and stuff?
10 o'clock.
Okay.
10:30 or 10 o'clock?
10:30.
I think the,
I
I
believe
think it's 10:30.
that was at 10:30.
It's 10:30.
Well, anyway,
I already
we'll be here at 10:30. Because we,
10, maybe they changed it to 10:30.
okay, well, anyway, I'm not the expert on the bylaws, but I mean, Trustee Jacobson, you make a good point. And I mean, what we're talking about here is capacity building. One of the things I'm trying to sort through this, is it the message or is it who's delivering the message? Because the message has not changed because the conduct and the issues and the challenges that we face has not changed. Now, whether that message gets delivered by some of our staff and, the instruction comes from them, or whether it comes from a paid consultant, I think, can we do it in-house? And would it be the same or different? So, I mean, that part, I think, is maybe it's a valid question, along with, and I didn't get enough notes and all the issues. Thankfully, this will be on consent agenda, but I would like to hear the points that Trustee Jacobson has, and also, get that with feedback from the administration. I'm not married to these consultants. I mean, I'm not just like, okay, we got to have these people. But I don't want the content and stuff to be watered down as a result of who's delivering it. So, and in terms of, one thing that is just, I too have Black friends. I too know the difficulty in, I'm being sarcastic. I mean, this is, we all know every one of us faces some sort of discrimination, some sort of racism in our daily walk. I mean, and what we're trying to do here is to get context, to share views, to get empathy for the shoes the other people walk in.
That's important.
And that's what Trustee Chavez was saying.
Right. I was saying to Lehia that when she says she's still experiencing it, I said, yeah, I see it firsthand.
Right.
When I'm in a store with my friend, I see it. And I was just so mad that I said, what are you doing? And I'm not buying my stuff here.
But what Bob is trying to say is, you're not in his shoes.
I know.
You're next to his shoes.
Right.
You're not
Right,
exactly
it's just
experiencing the
empathetic.
same thing. It's empathy, which is important, but it's not. But I mean, keep pushing this, you're really going to try to understand total empathy, where it's not just, I understand it from my perspective, but how do I understand it from another person's perspective?
Right. And my friend was explaining how
It's not an easy lesson.
No,
it's not an easy lesson. In fact,
and my friend was explaining to me how she felt, and I was agreeing with Lehia that it's still a problem today. That's my whole point of sharing that story, is that it still is a problem today. Not that I have a Black friend, like you said, we all do, and we all should.
Well,
Obviously.
and watering it down. I mean, what are we saying? This isn't watering it down.
No,
That's
why I'm saying, if we can do it in-house, or whoever the consultant is, I'm not so much enamored or committed to the consultant. I'm really, what is the message? I don't want the
And I think
message
that was
watered
Trustee
down.
Jacobson's message was about the consultant.
As the only one here who has been to PD with trust and without, I've been to two
others before.
I've been to 2 days of professional learning with our staff delivering it, and it was so much better.
And that's, I think, what the point was. I mean, Dr. Kempe, can you clarify? Was that the point of getting them to train everybody was for you all to do it eventually, right?
That's correct. So the current contract is really working more internally. So some PD coaching, which was requested by those PD teams, the teachers who are teachers on those teams at Mills and Middle College, and then the ILT team, in which the whole ILT team is very appreciative of their support for the work that they're doing.
I think we've got a comment from the public. If we can rest this conversation then, and then take some comments from the public.
Yeah, there's no vote anyway. I think it's going to consent.
Okay. Can we take the comment from the public, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marlo Bagsick. I am the PL coordinator. I just wanted to request some time here. Some of the things I heard said, just as a person who's been in the district for almost 10 years and passionately serves representing both Peninsula and now with the district. I hope I hear everything that's being said, but I'm highly concerned because at the end of the day, we're serving kids and we're serving all kids. And we understand where our gaps are, where our vulnerabilities are. And I want us to understand that there's so many silent voices that have gone unheard. And that's what this work is. That's what keeps me driving to do what I do to serve every single one of our students in our district at all sites. And this is what it's about. I hear that there's some politics or whatever is happening right now in the discussion. It's highly concerning because this is about the education of kids. And I've served them. I've served them at the margins. I've served them at continuation high school, knowing the brilliance and the excellence that they could bring. And all we want to do is to surface that for all the kids that are scared to exist. And so we know that there's problems in the system. And so when there's commentaries about Joe and Shane and the contracts, and some of these ideologies that are coming through, I think what we should reel it back to is it helping kids? And yes, it is. If we listen to the kids, if you listen to their voices, it absolutely is. I sat in a focus group with the board reps, and every single one of the student board reps said it's amazing about what we're doing because it's creating community. Isn't that what we want? We want to be able to come together to coexist without dissension, without division. I just want us to consider that. Witnessing this from a board that I've literally served almost my entire career, it's disheartening. Right now in public education, we need passionate teachers, and that's what I'm serving, and that's what I hope to continue to do. And I really hope that you guys could get it together.
Can I say?
Thank you. Yes.
So again, interestingly, I'm going to go back to this article. The participation of this, and this is a quote, the participation of San Mateo superintendent and board members in district-wide professional learning, which I totally remember being a part of, was crucial in signaling that we were all in. Maybe it's a time that we need as a board. I mean, I will reflect on maybe not putting it on consent because I think maybe the board needs to be brought in and talked about, and we need some education as well. Because we are the leaders and we have to be part of this and we have to be able to be on the same page or at least have some sort of consensus. And right now, we're not in consensus. I mean, we all have very strong opinions and I respect that and I like that. But we need to be able to come together at least and agree what direction the district is going in. And I think right now we're having some real faltering, and I'd want us to have some sort of let's coming together a little bit. Maybe some sort of PD again for us is important again. I know you look at me like that, but I think maybe we do as a team just to hear the same stuff because I'm hearing what Jennifer's saying and she's gone to these things, but maybe we as a group need to be together to do this so we can all hear it at the same time and talk about it because I hear what she's saying and I want to try to understand. And I think if we did it together, we might be able to move forward in a better way. Because right now we're just coming from different angles, our own experiences, and we're just not on the same page. And I want to try to figure out how to do that. So my recommendation is maybe we as a leadership group need to get back on this and hear what's going on and what's being taught.
I invited you all to do a set of modules about how to talk to each other, and everybody shut me down. Well, maybe Terry didn't.
Well, I'm not talking
think
about
everybody
that.
shut
I'm
you
talking about
down.
the subject matter.
Nobody shut you down.
And usually I'm busy, but I mean bringing it here. And bringing
Okay,
it
we
to
need to
study
move on,
session.
Yeah, I
but
was just gonna ask, Trustee Lynn, are you suggesting, because I know they're just looking for direction, are you suggesting that we move everything to consent except for this one contract that we want to discuss further?
No, I'm willing to move them all to consent. I just think my recommendation is I think the board needs PD as well because let's go back in time. The CSBA or San Mateo CSBA put together an equity workshop where we participated in this as a whole group.
Yeah.
And that's what we did as a board. This board has not done that.
Right.
And I feel there's a lot of lacking because of it. We're not on the same page. But years ago, we were all on the same page because we went through the same training, and maybe we didn't agree with it. Maybe we challenged things, maybe we questioned things, but it gave us some ideas to center us and bring us together. And I think we've kind of not have that right now. And we need to go back to that because, again, going back to this article that you wrote years ago, was it a couple of years ago or 22?
Yeah. It was
Okay. Anyway, really talks about how we were and where we got to this point. And I feel like we've made some great strides. I mean, even the speaker was talking about how we've been. And I think we've kind of need to reassert that and get back to that. So that's my recommendation, because I do want us to be at least respectful in the way that we're working together. And
I think we were respectful tonight, listening to each other. I mean, I might have got excited.
I think we're not on the same page.
Well, okay, but we're respectfully listening to everybody's opinions, and I think
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way. I mean, we're not going back to the boom, boom, boom and attacking. That's not where we are, but we still need to kind of experience the same things together. And that's something that maybe I think we need a little bit of, because I'm respecting what Jennifer, I'm really listening to what you're saying and what you went through and what you heard. And I haven't experienced that. So I can't judge one way or the other. And I'm just using what I know and reading the articles and reading the research and doing what the background to say, I think we're okay with this. So that's where I'm at.
And the direction is to put everything on consent, including that one.
And maybe
vendor.
add some PD for us on this.
Well, and early on, when I was first on the board, I did participate in one of these with Shane and Joe, and it was a lot more intense. I don't know if you remember, Dr. Kempe, this is lighter than it was. So yeah. And with Superintendent Booker, we've had conversations about bringing in someone to talk about implicit bias and all that stuff. So maybe we should do that. I think that's a good idea. All right. So we've gotten comments from the public. I'd like to entertain a motion to move this.
Oh,
to
move
consent.
Yeah.
Don't we have to
direction?
Don't we
Just
have to
direction. You
move
don't need
it?
a vote.
Oh, it's just direction. Okay. All right. So will we be moving into consent then? Okay. I thought we had to vote on that.
No, just like board operations, when we move specific board policies to consent, we don't take a vote.
I think you've heard all of us. I think you know where we need to go. If we need to do some adoptions or changes or whatever, do it. If it needs to go into consent, or you're going to talk about it in a weekly and bring it back. That's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken 3 pages of notes, and one of the things I think we need to do is provide the board. I'm looking specifically at the details of this particular contract, and it's really working with Mills High School, Middle College, and our instructional leadership team. Those are the Mills High School and Middle College PD teams, 1. Professional development with Middle College and Mills High School teachers, 2, and our instructional leadership teams. So I'd like to get us some feedback from those 3 specific groups back to the board. Bob, you asked for this, how they've been received, how effective have they become, how does the ILT team feel moving forward with this work? Do they need these consents? Because this is the last year of a 4-year contract. What's in front of you is really an outline of a 4-year contract, and they give you a little bit of a summary over the last 3 years. This is the last year of that contract specifically to those groups. But I think leading up to next school board meeting, I want to get you that data, attendance data, things like that, to help build out answers to some of the questions.
So this one, and I don't mean to interrupt, this one vendor is just for what you specified with their meal. So different school sites are using different vendors for their PD days. So.
When they asked for that, right? Those school sites.
These 2 schools continue to request that support. Our other schools use their internal PD coordinators, but these 2 specific schools have requested to continue the support.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
I mean, that's good to consider, because if they're asking for it, then I mean, what else could we offer them?
I would also make a recommendation. It's obviously up to the board. I mean, we're going to have many things on the consent agenda for a June 20th board meeting. Every year, the last June board meeting, there's tons of things there. if we put all these contracts on there only to have it pulled
Right.
to talk about more, why don't we just agendize it just to talk about it?
Yeah.
Putting it on the consent calendar based on this conversation, I just see it pulled to discuss.
Mhm.
So all the other ones,
Kind of what I was saying is like, you guys know what to do. Just
Yeah.
do it.
I don't know how
I
to.
don't feel like I need to discuss it anymore. I just would vote it down.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I understand that.
No, but if it's on consent, then she'd have to vote down consent.
Then you'd pull it off.
Yeah, you'd have to pull it. Mhm.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the only thing I need to understand what Trustee Jacobson was saying, you were saying facts and stuff. And so I just want to consider all the both sides of the issue.
And you're also saying
Mm-hmm.
teachers and staff had spoken to you. So it wasn't just this contract is for Mills, but it wasn't not necessarily Mills
Right,
staff that
not
you're
for
speaking to.
all
Yeah.
of them,
Right,
right.
because they were conducting the PD day for the entire district wide, I guess. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll place all these on consent. And then when we get on for the June 20th, and when we get to that item, if there are board members that want to vote on a particular contract separately, we would just pull it. Because voting no would mean voting no on all the consent items. I don't think we want to do that. So.
Could
then
you,
go from there.
could you get some information on those sites and like, what is it about it that they want? Like
Yeah.
maybe why do they want that direction from that
Mhm.
particular group or what helps them? I don't know, but it'll give some clarity maybe.
We
I
can
don't
put that
know.
in a weekly.
One of the concerns that I had that Jennifer brought up was about the the capital versus not. If that's going on, why? I need some justification or understanding. Because that concerns me. It does.
Thank you.
But is that in the stuff that they're bringing to the district?
Well, I just want to know where that came
I
from.
will explain where it came from. I read the contract, I read the proposal. In the proposal, he said, these are the things that we're going to be focusing on. And he referenced an article that he'd written for Education Week. I clicked on the link, I read the article, that's where I saw it. So that he said, this is what I'm going to be focusing on. And it's right there in black and white.
See, I was reading the other article.
And the white wasn't capitalized.
Okay.
Anyway,
so
it'd be nice to know what's going on there.
all right. Let's
Okay.
move on. Okay. Moving on.
Sorry, I'm finding there.
All right.
It's 10:30, so
yes.
point of order. I'm
It's
sorry.
not 10
No, I'm
yet.
almost 3 minutes. So what do we want to do? Do we want to what is it? Postpone some of the stuff?
Well,
Take a
we're not
break,
permitted to
or-
postpone the public hearing on the annual budget or
Right,
the
right.
LCAP, or the excess of minimum reserve requirement.
So
We-
take a break? Do you want to take a break? Do you want to keep going?
So you have 3 public hearings coming up for the rest of this. Let's just do it. We don't have to present. It's just open hearing, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just do it.
open.
Let's
What
plug
is
along.
gonna come? Let's do
Bio
it.
break, 2 minutes, then bio break, whatever.
Oh, okay.
I
Wait,
need to
go,
stand
hurry.
up. I was jealous
Okay.
that Jennifer was standing up earlier.
You can
I have some gummy bears. We're live.
I'll turn it off for you. You got it.
Thank you. Got it. All right. And we're back. So going on to the local control and accountability plan. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a public hearing. And what we've attached to the agenda is our local control accountability plan. There's an executive summary and a number of documents associated. This will get moved for approval at the June 20th board meeting, but tonight we're required by law to hold a public hearing. So I'm happy to support you with that if you'd like, Trustee.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will now open the hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing.
Okay, so we'll be moving that
Please.
to open agenda at our next meeting for discussion and approval.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, going on.
Wait, I got a few questions. Just kidding.
Are you serious? Kill you. Okay, Division of Business Services, Mr. Hawkins. Are you serious?
Already. Thank you so much. All right, so I will endeavor to be as quick as possible, but I want to make sure that we're going over some important items. So the things that I will kind of skip through, just to let you know, are the things that have already been approved by this budget along the budget development calendar. So with that, I want to thank Valerie Miller and Vanessa Castano. I note this most every time. They do 99.9% of all the work here, and I just want to thank them for their hard work, their professionalism, and really their skill with the budget. We're incredibly lucky to have them. So where are we in the budget development calendar? In January, we approved the budget development calendar for the year. The board has already approved the enrollment projections. Those drive staffing in the district. So that's an incredibly important piece. They've also approved all of the staffing as well as the other main budget assumptions at our early May meeting. They've reviewed the governor's January budget and the May revise. And now we're at the point of the required public hearing for the budget. So the agenda of the things we'll be going over. As part of the packet, there is a full set of the budget guidelines. Here's just a few of the highlights, but I know the board knows these guidelines because they gave to us many, many years ago. Okay, we went over the governor's May revise in the end of May. Okay, just hitting on a couple of key assumptions. Our assessed valuation in this public hearing budget is 4.7%. That was the amount as of last Thursday when the board report was due. I just do want to note that we have seen an uptick in the last couple of days. So today it sits at 5.16%, and we will continue to watch that and move forward. One change from the budget assumption is that we have included a 3% salary increase in the public hearing budget, along with our negotiations with our labor partners. And the workers' compensation rate is at 1.52%, which is in line with this year. I do want to note, though, we just received information that SMUHSD has done a 1-year small, about 0.2% rate decrease for 24-25 only. So at the next, the June 20th meeting, we will reflect that 1-year only decrease. These are the enrollment projections district-wide that have been approved already by the board. These are the staffing that was already approved in the budget assumptions meeting. The STRS rate and total statutory rate for our certificated employees. This is in line with our budget assumptions. Same with PERS, although we have the exact PERS rate, which is a tiny tick under what the projected rates were going to be for 24-25. One thing to note is we have about a 1.5% projected increase to the PERS rate over a 3-year period. While that's not great, it is better than, as you can see, any of the 3-year periods over the last 10. This is the same one-time funding slide that was included in the budget assumptions. So we do still have one-time funding that is slowly going away. We do not expect significant additional one-time funding in the next few years, given the state's budget situation.
Can you go back just for a second?
Yeah.
Just the ESSER 3?
Yes.
It's going to be done in ESSER 3 learning loss. Those disappear.
Correct.
That's what we have left and we need to spend them by September 30th.
Yeah, it is on track to be spent by September 30th, really leaving the big one as that learning recovery emergency block grant as the last kind of COVID funds that are remaining.
Lasting, yeah.
The others are separate, somewhat related to COVID, but not specifically. This is the previous board of plan to step down those COVID expenditures. After feedback, the board updated and approved a new reduction plan to support the retention based on that feedback. So just a couple of changes since the May assumptions meeting. So this is an important tab. Our secured property taxes have continued to tick up by the AV tracker from the county. The SELPA funding, I do want to note this is a hit to the district. We received the projection for the funding for 24-25, and it was 600,000 lower than the previous funding. We are looking into all of the details for that, but it looks like that they actually have been making mistakes in the past, and so we will continue to work with the county on this, but it's looking like we will see an ongoing reduction in special education related funding of about 600,000 moving forward. In terms of expenses, salary and benefits, that's the 3% that were included in there. We saw some instructional departmental budgets updated, and then based on our projections and our discussions with PG&E, then we do see an increase of about 300,000 needed in electricity.
Damn PG&E.
We're hoping to offset some of that by the new solar that will be implemented, but we're not going to calculate that until it's there.
Quick question before you move.
Yeah.
Secured property tax. Obviously, you're saying this is a change of increase of revenue. Is this what you're talking about with the assessed valuation going from 4.7 to 5 point?
No, that's what
what I
you will
wanna
see on June 20th. You'll see this is from
This gets you
the
up to
early
the 4
May.
point.
This gets us up to the 4.7.
So we actually will be increasing that number.
Yes, you'll see it a little bit above that.
Right.
But we'll need it because where we'll get to in a second.
Okay.
Overall, this is the overall budget. You have second interim, you have our budget assumptions from early May, and then we have our current projected estimated actuals in public hearing. Due to the changes noted above, which include the 3% offset a little bit by some of those other changes, including the property taxes, I am bringing to the board a budget that is seeing an unrestricted deficit of around 2%. And so that's the largest deficit that I've brought to the budget. Now we're going to continue to monitor, our assessed value growth, how our negotiations go. But I do not see that being, that to be wiped out. I do expect us to run a deficit in the next year unrestricted. And this is an important reason why we keep a strong fund balance in this district, because we don't have to jump right away when we are projecting a small or medium deficit, which I would call this, of up to 2%. So what is this message? We need to be not in expansion mode right now. If we're looking to add something, well, it probably means we need to start taking something away. And I know there's no lack of great ideas and wonderful things that we can do for students, but I go to the old CBO line that, it can also be used. And they use it on superintendents, but they also can use it to the board, is that you can have anything you want. You just can't have it all. And so I think it's going to be really important as we look, in the future, is that we're really going to have to look at opportunity cost around the things. And then we're also going to have to start, probably flipping around the edges to get this budget back in line. And so that means some difficult decisions. And, truthfully, this district hasn't had to make a lot of, we're really lucky that we haven't had to really make, tough decisions. So hopefully we'll get it, tightened up a little bit. But then, over the next year, 2 years, probably gonna have to make some decisions around that. And so I do want to note that. But really, when I come at first interim, that's really going to be a time where we're really going to know. We're going to know our actual staff. We're going to know how many kids we have, and we're going to know where that assessed value in those negotiations. And then we're really going to have to address what we're going to do. Like I said, though, this is why we have a strong fund balance, so that we don't have to jump immediately when we have a 2% deficit. But we have to look at it. We have to acknowledge that it's there, and then we're going to have to deal with it, over the next year to 2 years.
So you're decreasing, well, the costs are decreasing our reserve, so it's not as high.
Correct.
But there will be a time at one point where a structural deficit like this has to be addressed and recycled or readjusted.
Absolutely. And the earlier you can address that, the better. Because that'll allow your fund.
But you're not red lighting that. You're not the bells and whistles and sirens are not going off yet. You're saying, okay, we just need to slow down.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The bells and whistles are going off for me.
Why?
Because I don't feel comfortable with the 2% deficit. I think we're lucky that Kaiser rates are projected to be quite the rise quite low. We're super lucky. Yeah. So we've got some time and space to address this and to do it over a couple of years, to develop an over a couple of year plan, rather than not address it for some time and then have to hit the axe.
I don't disagree. I get what you're saying. I really do. But I'm also I'm a little skeptical because we have such a huge reserve. So, but I'm listening.
Okay. What I've experienced here so far is, and I know it hasn't been like this always here. I've been talking to both you and Trustee Griffin. We don't have a culture of fiscal restraint here right now. We've had it.
Yes.
But we don't have it right now. And so getting people to kind of wrap their head around a culture of fiscal restraint. I mean, we cut 1.2 FTE of something this year, and it's as if we cut 15 FTE. I mean, the reaction to cutting 1.2 was much stronger than I would have anticipated.
Yep.
And so it's and this is why I'm saying we need to address a culture of fiscal restraint over a couple of years.
And my recommendation to go back to the way it used to be is present ideas for how to reduce, not to say, here it is, do it. We could do this. We might do this. We do this. That will help us get to where we need to be, because then we're cutting it the way we want to cut it. But if we just kind of go, well, here's what I want, you're going to get pushback. But if you get, we could try this, we could try this, we could try, then I'm just.
I totally agree. We can't just tighten the belt. We have to say, here's 5 things that do we need to keep these 3 and eliminate those 2, or reduce
as long as we eliminate something.
Right. And you saw that we could do a step down program. I mean, we actually did say yes to that. And then we compromised. Exactly. Anyway, I think that's just what I'm trying to say about this.
All right. All right. I will move on. In terms of next steps, on the 20th, we will bring forth to adopt the budget and the LCAP. Obviously, we're going to continue to review the assessed value tracker. We will continue to manage the one-time funding. Hopefully, we will finalize our negotiations with our bargaining units in the next few sessions that we have scheduled. And then, as I noted, in the fall, we'll look and see our final enrollment and staffing. We'll analyze how our long-term management plans align with our district's goals and LCAPs. We'll manage our fund balances. And this one is the one that Trustee Griffin loves. We will resist using future projected dollars or one-time monies to justify paying for ongoing expenditures. We will resist it. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to any questions.
Okay, I will take questions and comments from the board. Do you have questions?
Have you run your multi-year? I know you have. You got your multi-year. What do you just a lot of times CBOs just show break even in the out years.
Yeah,
It's always that third year. Oh my God, we got anyway.
So I just signed off on the final adjustments for the June 20th meeting, which means I'm going to get my final MYP in the next hopefully 24 hours. What I do expect is we include a 3.5% assessed value growth a year in the multi-year projections. We also include step and column. So, you know, we're getting the regular things. What we don't include, because they haven't been authorized or approved by this board, is a salary increase. So what do I expect in the multi-year projection? I expect that 3.5% assessed value growth to bring probably by the second out year, the third year in my multi-year projection, that we will move from a medium-sized deficit to a smaller deficit to a somewhat small positive. But I will also be very clear that would, if that happens, that would mean zero increases, you know, with our labor partners. And I also don't see that as realistic with a 3.5% assessed value growth each of those years. So I would expect by probably the third out year it to be either close or a small positive, you know, but with the huge caveat that doesn't include any increases to salaries and benefits, which I do expect that the district will want and will give.
You know, to some degree, every government that's adopting budgets, everyone is struggling with these same issues, whether they're in education or just local government or special districts. To some degree, our fortunes are tied to the state economy, and I don't see it turning around, in the next 3 years. So I kind of think we need to get started on that diet. I mean, I
agree.
Okay,
I'm with you.
It's there. I
Yep.
mean, and so because you pay me now or you pay me later, you wait till later, it's really
You're
hurts.
gonna have to pay more.
But is there a way to go slower? I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I hear what Greg's saying, because you will get pushback if you do it all at once, just no more spending, right? So is there do you have any recommendations for a gradual? And then could you give us those recommendations?
Absolutely. So for good or for bad, in every district that I've been in before this, I've had to run, a prioritization process around making reductions. We've just been lucky in this district not to have had to do that significantly. There has been, I've looked back and over the last 10 years, there has been reductions here and there. So there is that muscle that can be worked out, but districts across the state with COVID money really since 2020 really have not had to do that. And so I get it. If you stop working out your muscles, you got to start working out again. And so President Andrade Zuniga, yes, we will bring options here. I'm not going to throw out different options right now because, I think probably coming to you with a process is more likely what we will do. And then as Trustee Land noted, bringing 10 options and saying, well, we don't like 6 of them, but 4 of them we don't like either, but maybe we can consider. And so, we'll look at that. Like I said, at first interim, we will absolutely know kind of really where we are. And then, we'll bring some more information then to do that.
I just had an epiphany about the Budget Advisory Committee. I think, and I remember we're sitting on that maybe with Trustee Rogers or somebody, and we had the standing list, that we kind of talked to the business services about the kind of thing. So I don't know who's serving on that, but that
No.
Yeah.
Haven't been meeting. Yeah.
Well,
who is?
Time to get on that.
And that's part of you starting to, stretch and work those muscles. So I'm definitely in agreement with you, Trustee Griffin.
Yeah, work up a new joke.
I got good ones.
So
Yeah.
So a couple questions. So I know this is not huge, but I kind of want to know the financial impact of it. The governor changed his COLA from a piddly 0.38, whatever, to
Yep.
a giant 1.07. How much money is that going to be?
We usually refer to it, it's budget dust. I mean,
Budget dust?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
I just
it
need
was
to know. 'Cause
0.78 to, I
it was
think.
it was the only positive thing that
Yeah.
changed. Everything else was cut.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
No, I mean, to state funded districts, when it's their LCFF,
Right.
it's calculated, it's a little bit more than budget dust, although not that much more for them either. But for us, it's truly, it's a rounding error.
Okay.
For our overall budget. It's not doing anything, but hey, we'd always rather it go up than down.
Right. Okay. Assessed valuation.
Yeah.
It's up at 5 point what?
5.16
5.16.
as of this morning.
Where do we think it's going to end this year?
I'd say it'll tick up.
I'm remarkably surprised because I was like you. I was thinking, 3 point whatever, and we're finally slow down. And
Yeah, the county projected generally across districts that it would be around 5%.
Okay.
So if we got to 5.5,
Wow.
I could see
Okay.
that, but
Okay.
I don't expect it to. But I wouldn't be shocked.
Okay.
I don't see it going over 6 unless there is just so much information at the county.
No more 7.5.
But this assessed value tracker this year has been wilder than any of the other years in terms of swings. So,
okay.
I'll know a lot more on 620 because after about June 15th, the tracker pretty much stops. So,
And even though I'm keep talking about all this optimism and positives, I really do understand that we need to start getting on a diet. So I understand that. So let's figure out what kind of diet we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So.
Are there any other, yes, Trustee?
Yeah, I want to say thank you for the presentation. I mean, there's a lot that goes into preparing these numbers, and I know Vanessa and Valerie are still sitting back there. And I want to thank both of them. You said that they do 99.99% of the work, but I know I know it's great that you recognize your staff as we want to as well, but you're part of the team and your team is amazing. You do amazing
they are
work.
amazing, but you're right. My 0.1% is very
You said
helpful.
0.01% actually.
I
Now you
mean,
rounded it up to 0.1?
Sure.
No, this is great. And I think that it's good to take a look to see if we need to go on a diet. I think that that nobody wants to fund future projects with using one-time money because then you can't maintain that project going
Right.
forward. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So thank you for that reminder.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Do we need to do a public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes, we'll do that right now. Okay, I will open up the public hearing. Questions from the public?
There are none.
All right, I'll close the public hearing now. Thank you very much. Thank you too. To
So
the
I
bees
have
and
one
the-
more public hearing. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So this is just a required by law public hearing around our reserve levels. This came into effect when the reserve cap started at the state level, when it was brought in at the 11th hour during budgets. And so we need to hold a public hearing around our reserve levels. All the information that is needed is in the packet.
We have an excess? Like lots excess?
No.
Just saying, this is that's what this is about.
The board, what shows on the agenda that the board bylaws, it's 12%, and I think we're almost at 15%, right? From what you just showed us?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
that's-
the required minimum is the 12%
and I
by
think we're-
board
What
policy.
you just showed, I think we're 15, about 15, right?
It's about that level, yeah.
What are we exactly?
I'd have to go back.
Well, it's the slide he just showed us, the slide.
know.
Here. It's right
I
here.
saw one. Yeah. It's in
Yeah.
the slide.
Here. And we already did that last public hearing twice, but.
Well,
Right. Oh, second interim was 16. Now it's 14.
14.64.
That's what I said about.
Okay.
it's almost 11 now.
Okay.
Still above the board.
Yes.
It's a
open it,
healthy
open it. Mhm.
excess, but okay.
Okay, I'm opening the public hearing. Any questions from the public?
There are none.
All right. Closing the public hearing. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Okay, going on to board operations.
Yeah, we've got some specific board policies and admin regs from March. And we're requesting that they get moved to the consent agenda next
Okay.
meeting.
Like, I'm not sure if it's.
Can we agree that we'll move them to consent?
Yeah.
Agreement? The policies?
Can I pull it if I feel like, because I don't know what's on it. I did not look at this part. I'm sorry. I did a
No,
lot of
no,
it.
that's
I was a
fine.
little tired.
Yeah, well, you
Well, that
guys,
doesn't help.
Is there anything, well, usually I ask Kirk, is there anything significant change? on
These
that?
are all based on new laws.
yeah.
There's
All new
nothing.
laws.
Put on consent and then
have
if
to
Greg
read it.
has a question, he can
All right,
ask later.
no worries.
All right, so if you have questions later, you're gonna have to pull it.
I'll let somebody know in advance
All right.
before it goes crazy.
Okay. All right, are there any questions from the public or comments from the public?
There are none.
Okay, we'll move these on to consent for the next meeting. Future board agenda items, CT pathways, instructional leadership update, and board retreat, June 27th. We are now adjourned. Thank you. Oh, sorry. No. I didn't take public comment for those.
Well, you also have
Last
to open
time.
it us to.
Yes, do you all have comments?
Or if we have recommendations
Yeah,
for.
on future board. Huh?
I don't, but that's the question.
Okay. How about public?
There are none.
Okay, now we're adjourned. Thank you.